this workshop of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. It's Thursday, August 18th, 2016, and it's a very big day for the Keshe Foundation, as we'll find out in this workshop. First, I'll play the Mojan promotional video, and then we'll get into the main part of the workshop.
Would you like to be one of the first humans in space using plasma technology? The Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute is now taking applications for the Man-Originated Zone Habitation and Nutrition Training Program, or MOJAN. The goal of MOJAN is to teach trainees how to create and utilize the magnetically oriented joint habitation and nutrition system that will be used for life in space. Be one of the first humans in space using plasma technology. The 3-month MOJAN training program begins in the fall of 2016. Apply today at mojan.kfssi.org. Trainees will be taught every aspect of plasma technology needed for them to go to space and survive, and will be educated in space ethos. Participants are expected to bring the knowledge forward to the peoples of their nations to prepare them to become peoples of space. Matter propulsion technology. To date on Earth, we use inefficient and costly rocket propulsion technology, which burns fuels to overcome the magnetic gravitational fields of the planet to go to space. We power our rockets, our cars, and our homes by burning matter to release the energy that we convert from one form to another in order to create motion and usable energy. As well, to achieve objectives, rockets, for example, have to carry large and heavy payloads of fuel, which means that they're payload dependent. Matter propulsion technology is very destructive, inefficient, polluting, and wasteful. Now, let's look at the new alternative, plasma technology. Plasma technology uses the properties of the entirety of plasma to create motion, lift, and energy without destroying the characteristics of matter. The system utilizes magnetic and gravitational field interaction to attain positioning and motion. Nothing is burned, there's no waste, and no pollution is created. Plasma technology is efficient and not destructive. Current human scientific achievement is the result of a progressive evolution in science and technology over thousands of years. Plasma technology is the next step in that evolution. It's viable and it's here today. You could be one of the first humans in space using plasma technology. Apply today to the MOJAN training program.
Okay, let's move into the main part of the workshop here with Mr. Keshe. I believe he's available. Let's see, I'm not sure if we have the video. Do you have a video feed for Mr. Keshe today? Or hello, are you there?
Yes, good morning, good day to you, as usual, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. No, we don't have the video. Video was set up for the presentation of last night. And first of all, I'd like to thank all of you who were involved in different ways to see and to set up the meeting of last night. My answer to what happened yesterday was the best thing could happen to us. At the beginning, it looked very much a problem in breaking the systems, not being able to show the 5 kilowatt live. But in fact, it was a blessing in disguise. But not allowing or not happening that we could show live the presentation with 2 pieces of the system breaking down. He allowed us to speak frankly with the Americans. He allowed us to open the door in so many ways for those who are and were aware, but they could not understand the position of the foundation. I think the whole meeting wrapped up in the last 10 minutes. And we immediately after the meeting, within 25 minutes, 27 minutes after the close of the session last night, we received an offer which we could not refuse. We have accepted the offer. You know who you are, and we respect your leadership. The offer on the table is beyond understanding of some nations, but as I've said, accepted. If the motion takes place the way we expected, you will hear new dimensions to the research, development, and expansion of the Keshe Foundation technology worldwide. This is a decision that leaders make, and when leaders make decision, the subjects of the whole technology changes. On the other hand, as if you were present last night in the discussions in Washington, we showed 2 pieces of new equipment to show how much we've gone and how far we are extending the knowledge into a solid state generator. You have seen how far we are in respect to application and implication of wireless technology. These takes a few more weeks of completing, maybe days, depending on how our team works. And I think if we get the response which we expect, as usual, things don't happen the way you expect, but if things happen the way we expect, the new solid state power generator will be an easy way for energy production. Not everyone in Africa or South America or other parts of Asia can find these compressors, can find the creation of triggering the life within the system of the generator. The new solid state, totally plasmatic system allows anyone to reach the position. The whole target is to show energy can be produced without fuel, and we have achieved it. In so many ways, we have achieved more last night than we achieved over past year. In bringing awareness to a number of people who are key players in the world politics. At the last 10 minutes, we received the message we were and how we've been heard. These things are important. It's important for what we do, where we're going, and how we intend to use our work. How we intend to proceed with development. We were online nearly 10 hours last night. Altogether, the session in 2 sessions, and then carrying on with the other session in another part of Washington. I would like to thank Douglas for his sincerity and his work. He has put a lot in, and as a man of army, he could easily carry the message to the army. And hopefully, what the American army has put on the table as acting officer on duty when the proposal was made, we respond the same to the American army and to the other armies around the world. We have to make army of peace, not army of war. And that's the only choice we have, and the only chance we have as an organization which not only has the power, the knowledge, but it has the determination to achieve peace through the technology. I thank all of you in the background. It was not easy to set up. I thank our attorneys in Washington who put a lot of effort to the session last night. The last night's session was not so much about the numbers, but was the quality of the listeners in the background, and those who were listening gave instructions, and we respect your instructions. And my offer, my foundation accepts the offer you have made to us. Leadership needs wisdom, and the wisdom comes from sincerity and commitment. In respect to our work and the generator, I have seen a lot of work going on, even us in Rome, in Philippines, and 2 other places are heavily testing, heavily developing, testing at every aspect of the technology. If you have seen the blueprint and you are working on it, please understand the system can have, depending on the phase and the frequency of your setup, 2 different ways to start it off. If you use fish tank pumps, which we use as a trigger point, you have to understand what is the outlet of your fish tank. It's not just that you have a fish tank pump will start the procedure. The output of these systems is usually about 110. If you operate in the countries where it's 220, you will find problems because you cannot achieve the current and the voltage. So you have to change to a system which brings, be careful with the word I use, a magnetic flow current of 220. Signal generators do not give such opportunity. The small power units do not give this opportunity. The reason the batteries work, 612-volt battery works, because you have to go to understand the structure of the current flow in these systems. They have both AC and DC. And a conversion from AC to DC creates electromagnetic flow within the pump, which they start, which matches the condition of exciting the plasma to the, what I call the beat, the heartbeat of the plasma. When you use signal generators, this magnetic field flow is missing. The current flow from the battery into the winding of the pump in interaction both with AC and DC from the battery creates a specific kind of gravitational magnetic field plasmatic flow which matches the plasma flow within the coils that you have. This is extremely important to understand why certain systems work, why certain systems don't. When you use a generator, you create more or less the same condition as using a battery. The structure is not the same, but can reach a certain speed to create the interaction. You have to understand why, for example, Douglas's system responds in that order, because it's a combination system, not single system. On the other hand, if you have system which can release 220 and the phase, you have to understand you need a system in your capacitor mode compressors and a compressor that always there is a delay in reaction, that delay in reaction creates the pulseful release of plasma. If you look in the drawing, we have a capacitance in the red compressor. For this capacitor to be charged and discharged creates that delay that the 2 motors cannot synchronize, but in not synchronizing create the heartbeat or the pumping that allows the fields from the stacker coils to be released. A number of people have noticed and they have told me the setting of the plasma capacitor is wrong, is negative to negative of the magnetic gravitational system, MAGRAV system. It's not wrong. I was told the same. I looked at it, but our innovation center confirms this is correct because they are set as parallel. So the 2 negatives are the same and 2 positives are the same. And in fact, when you connect, when you start the system off, you receive against all the works of the physics, two positive, each one of it is negative at your load. This is a strange setup, but you're dealing with plasma. You have to close the loop of the plasma. As we said, for example, in the structure of the planet, it's the same field going from the south coming to the north. So in that flow of the fields from the maggrav to the capacitor system, you can drain whatever you like. All the load become more or less as part of the circuit. There is a very clear structure in this setup. It's a plasmatic setup, not a current flow electron vibration, or what we call the present electric circuits. Those of you who are trying, and hopefully within coming hours or days will report how you've been creating energy, please be careful. This is a plasmatic current. You can use this current at the point of plug literally for anything you need. If you can connect or develop a plug system that is totally nano-based than current-based matter state, you will find out you will achieve huge works. At the moment at your plug, you are plugging from the totally nano-coated plasma circuit in a totally matter state circuit. There has to be a step down and loss of energy. If you could understand and set up and build new ways of connection, as the plug load section, you can directly convert the plasma energy from the energy system generator into anything you like. You have to keep the circuitry in the same process. You cannot connect the load end of your system into a matter state and then try to get plasma from it. Maybe you have to develop two systems parallel. One maggrav system, plug system, and one matter state plug system, which this allows you to operate both at the current use of materials which you have, fridge, freezers, or whatever, and the new cycle of materials which we create, like creation of matters, creation of food. You don't need to convert till the point to what you want to convert the system to. The expansion of the knowledge comes very, very much with understanding the knowledge fully. What this allows you to do is very simple. Can you please allow me to be able to use the option to draw on the drawing, please? I don't want to share a screen. I want to use the same picture, but be able to use to show things on it.
Okay, then you just need to select the annotate. Is that what you mean?
I did. I didn't have an option. It didn't give me an option to use it. I have to go to full screen. Okay. Can you put the picture back up, please?
Okay.
Okay. What this means is, in this part of the circuit, you have to create a secondary line. You have to create a secondary line and a new plug system, where these two systems run very similar and parallel to each other. With this system, you will be able to create a condition where you actually tap directly into the lines. And in this system, you only achieve, oh my God, what is the problem? In this system, you only use for matter state usage. In this system, you use for plasma usage. Plasma is very flexible. So you need to create two plugs. You cannot carry on because you step down and then you have to step up. In this section, you directly go into plasma. You can connect this into a plasmatic For example, food production. You connect it directly for lift. You connect it directly for production of materials. It's the same, but we have to understand now we have entered a different world. As I said, we use the matter state to create controllable plasma. When you create a matter state energy to control the plasma, you have a lot of flexibilities. These two units can run parallel with each other, and those who come to understand this will enjoy working with this system beyond imagination. Because the things you can achieve in this new system gives you a freer hand, stronger fields, and very much a universal condition conversion. For example, as I said, as we saw, with the people who are producing materials from fresh air, if you connect your motors to this one, and you connect your motors to this one, you will see totally two different responses in production of the material. Here is just rotation and plus what's in there. Here is the energy supplied plus what is in here, because it's the same, they link up at the same power. You find out, instead of waiting for a day to create a kilo of gold, you stand for about 10 minutes because you don't go through conversion. Those of you who are on the development side and you go very fast with these things have to understand this. Our Chinese friends are very good at understanding these things because they understand yin and yang. For people in the West, it's very hard to see this. You can use these plasma units for cancer with the immediate result. The possibilities of using this technology is beyond your imagination. Whatever we have at the present world time in science and technology, if you can develop the parallel of it in plasma, you will see what the difference will make. If your cooking time is 1 hour, use plasma microwave, give you 2 minutes, but with much better result. Because you work and the meat is in a plasma condition, so receives the energy directly. The structure of the tools we have from now on changes. I've been waiting to release this technology of the plasma energy for years. Now it's on the table. I worked with it for many years and it's so beautiful. And when I said, you see this, now that you start understanding that you have access to plasma energy, you will see the same. Your lift machines, your MAGRAF systems, your star formations, nano coat your system and connect it to the system on the plasma side. I will see you in Washington in no time. Because you got to understand something very interesting. When you create lift and motion through the energy of the plasma, like here, your system is totally plasmatic. It will respond to the Earth gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, which is plasmatic immediately. This circuit, as I said, was the missing piece in the structure of the Keshe Foundation work for a long time. And I told you, I have kept the golden key. This is one of the nudges on that key. Without it, you cannot move. From now on, we'll create and we will see two lines of scientists. Those who are matter state scientists, those who are gravitational magnetic or plasmatic scientists. None are wrong, but each one has to understand which way they feel comfortable with. With The matter state scientists, we leave them behind because for them to comprehend the plasma work in the universe is more or less beyond their education. In a way, they educated themselves, but they accepted the limitation. This is what I want to be. It's very much like going to the medical school and just wanting to be somebody who understands the medicine, or you want to become general practitioner, or you want to become a heart surgeon. The body is the same. It's you who decides which end of it you want to work with. We have to enlighten you. We have to give you the seed of thoughts that with it, you bring the tools of the action as you've done up to now. This has been my job in past 2 years. I've done enough research and development. That's why I can tell you where you can go. But I enlighten you. I give you the knowledge, and those of you who understand, grab it and practice it or try it in the part which you understood. I have to enlighten 7 billion people. So I have to have 7 billion different ways of doing it, that all of you have something to do and be proud that you are part of it. Try not to criticize each other, but respect in what section you work. If you're a heart surgeon, you can't tell to the brain specialist your work is useless, because without his brain your heart cannot work, and without your heart his brain cannot work, so you have no patience and you have nothing to work with. This is the same. You have to decide and respect each other's knowledge in the field which you have become a specialist or would like to be a specialist. And understand, we have to open a new language, new dictionary of science, that we were nuclear physicists, we became atomic physicists, we became physicists, we became astrophysicists, and we all respect each other because we say which part of the knowledge we have devoted our life to. Now we have magravity plasma physicists and we have matter state physicists. And these two categories has to be very, very clear, because what you see in the matter state looks ridiculous in the plasma state, and in the plasma state you can achieve the matter state very easily, because you work from deeper inside. This is what I've explained, and I'll repeat myself, if for those of you who understand it. As I said in the talk yesterday and in other teachings, we started with the wood. We went to the atom of the wood. We understood more. We went to the nucleus of the wood. And now we've gone inside the nucleus, inside the components of the nucleus, and we understand how the packages of the energy in that, what we call proton, neutron, and electron, interact and work internally and in respect to each other externally. This is the new knowledge. So if we have gone from burning wood, a big piece of matter, to a few atoms that can create and run power stations and create the same kind of heat, it has been gained in the knowledge of the man. And now with the plasma, we're going deeper, we achieve and reach much stronger fields. Otherwise, the plasma you work with is still part of the block of wood. It's us who has to decide which part and respect each other. You will find a lot of scientists who work in the nuclear, in atomic, in wood and matter, will criticize you because they are not prepared to go a step down to understand more. And you who understood more, it shows them they are not in that level, so they have to. And they've had a field day for it for years. The commitment is very simple. We have to commit ourselves to one direction, and that's peace. Does not matter if we burn wood or we use the plasma. We tried wood, we didn't get very far. We tried nuclear, we destroyed each other beyond imagination, and we used it as a tool of threat. With plasma, you cannot do any damage because it finds its balance and it's the best choice for any application. Please understand the diagram and the generator which is in front of you. Do not get eluded by the matter state energy which produces. Rejoice the power which you have found out recently, which is the plasma energy which produces at the same time. You can achieve more. If you take the plasma option, you still can do the same with the matter state, because somewhere at the end of the lane, when you chose the plasma and you want to use it, you have to bring it in a matter state that you as a matter state entity can respect and understand its application and implication. So when you're putting this system together, when you make your generators, you have to understand this is a plasmatic generator. It can always become lower, but itself has a huge power. We found the power of nuclear when we broke the atom up. Now we have broken the nucleus. We've broken the entities of the nucleus, and we've seen how more powerful from atom to nuclear we become. Now you can imagine how much more power is there from nuclear to plasma. The plasma has to reduce enough in the strength that it can manifest itself as the energy ball, what you call the neutron or proton or electron or a star or the sun. So it has enough and it has to reduce so much to become at that strength. So now we are going to the center, to the mother. These are little knowledges from those who understand it, can apply it. We will see new instruments, new technologies, and new facilities to make life easier for man. I have a recommendation to the governments who are highly evolved into the nuclear industry. This goes especially for the French and Swiss. Understand the work of these plasma reactors and create cocoons that you can hold the structure of nuclear power stations within this cocoon as one plasma. In coming time, if you do not do so, you have to dismantle every structure which your countries cannot afford. You enjoyed the power of nuclear. Now you have to understand that the plasma technology is on the market and is on the table. You can use it to contain the nuclear. If the Japanese would have collaborated with us with Fukushima, they would have taken a very small reactor to contain the whole of 4 reactors in Fukushima with less than $100. Containment within the structure of the plasmatic condition. No water would have flown into the reactors, and the reactors could have done whatever they like, because now they are within structure of a shield system. You can allow the reactors to run away and melt down, because they melt down within a cocoon you have created and will not affect the operation of this planet or contaminate any water. This was the biggest mistake with the Japanese government betraying the Keshe Foundation. You were happy with the crumbs, we offered you the full loaf. This is what you will understand very soon. This is what you have to understand very soon. This is what you do not have a choice if you go to space. You travel to the point of the destination, and at that point of destination, you decide how you want to manifest yourself. You're a sightseer. If it's liquid, would you like to submerge? Or if it is gas, you like to float in it. You don't need to change aircraft. You don't need different engines for different jobs. All you need to do is to transfer the energy at the strength of the environment that it can interact with and leave residual in existence. Those of you who will understand the teaching of past 30 minutes, I have given you the secret to the wisdom of traveling into space and existence in space. Those of you who are materialistic and happy with your energy, that you can have a cheaper energy, you still have your rights, but you still will follow for years to come to achieve for those who understood. Are there any questions that we can answer, and then we go into seeing what other people are developing and where we are and what problems you have with your plasma generators?
We have a viewer, Bernard, got his hand up. Maybe we can hear from him. Hi, Bernard.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good.
We cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just my computer's taking this home, so can you hear me now?
You got to speak louder.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi. I just want to thank you for last night. That was pretty fantastic. I have something to show here of consequence, maybe. I froze a container yesterday. I created some plasma balls, alkaline and acidic. And well, to what you've taught us, I put them each in a container with a distance between them. I looked at the container now this morning. It's frozen, but the pocket between the two is not frozen. And you can see all the fields interacting. There's an open.
Would you like to show it to us?
Yeah, I'm just going to grab it from the fridge, and you can see it. It just astounded me.
Can you give him the option to share a screen, please? Rick?
Yeah, he might be sharing the video there.
Yeah,
He's gone to his fridge. A new drink.
I put it on share. I don't know what's happening here. Can you see me?
You got to share your camera. Can you promote him?
I hit share screen.
Are you trying to share a picture or a video, or are you trying to start your camera?
Just trying to show myself, I guess, here.
Okay, well, you don't want to share screen. You want to start the camera, start video. Should be on the bottom left of your Zoom window.
I'm hitting that. Nothing's happening.
Do you have a...
View settings. Okay, something's happening here. Can you see me?
Okay, what's happening there now, Bernard?
I'm reading this stuff here. I've got, yeah, I can see myself here. Yeah. All right. I've got nothing on the screen here. Okay, hold on a second here.
Yep, you're coming in.
No, that's your desktop.
That's
and
your desktop.
screen sharing, not the video. Can you turn that off, please? Or I will.
turn it off. I'm
You
lost.
don't give much options.
No, I'm lost with this stuff.
Okay, then we'll have to practice later or something because you're taking up too much time right now. You can come into the Kesh Plasma Reactor group, or you can get a hold of us at any time, and we can practice in the Zoom separately and make sure you can handle the video.
Okay, let's go. Can you?
Yeah. I'll keep
Okay.
this thing frozen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you explain to us again what you done exactly in a very slow speed?
I created two alkaline balls. I mean, two balls are one acidic and one alkaline.
Yes.
And, I layered them. I used epoxy.
Can you speak into the microphone, please? We lost you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're clear. Yeah.
Okay, each ball was layered contrary to each other as you taught us, and the center pins are different. Basically, I created the same kind of balls that, but in a solid state. I use epoxy, a resin, and each layer had dry GaNs. A different dry GaNs in each layer, contrary to each other. Well, this is what I've put in the water. I was thinking, if you put
No. We are still asleep from last night. We haven't woken up yet. You have to explain in more detail what you've done.
I
You
use
dried your GaNs?
Yeah, I have different dried GaNs, gold GaNs, all the different GaNs of CH3.
Yeah. Okay, I understand.
And I use these GaNs.
And how did you mix them? You put them in a dry state with each other?
Yeah, well, they're all individually, and they were dry.
Yeah.
And each layer I would mix individually with the dry GaNs when I mix the epoxy and the resin.
What do you mean by layer? You paint them over each other?
Yes, I did. I started with a brass pin in the center that was hollow. And I added a few drops of CH3 water and a tiny bit of GaNs with that, and a tiny bit of sugar in with the CH3.
Okay, and you let it to dry?
No, I sealed it with a bit of liquid in the center, and I put the epoxy around it so it would stay put. Then I began.
You mean the pin or the GaNs?
The pin. I sealed the pin so everything stayed in the center in a liquid state with a layer of epoxy.
I am lost.
Okay.
Because I can't see it.
Well,
we'll put it this way. Go in the background and check how you can. Stanley, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Could you please in the background help him and then bring him back in again to get him started?
Okay, I will.
Thank you very much. Okay, we come back to you. Once Stanley gets you going, come back in straight because you are discussing something very interesting and we are all ready to learn from you.
Yeah, because the fields are very obvious and the block of ice between the two pins didn't freeze. It's an open shielded pocket. You can see the rotation.
Yes, let's have a look at it. Good. Standing in the background helps you to be able to activate your camera and then come back in the next few minutes. We wait when you're ready.
Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions?
A comment from Gladstone, who's was wondering if it was a good time to talk about his amino acids and watch a video that he has about that. Do you want to have more topics on the generator here first?
Yeah, let's go carry on with the generators and we come back.
Okay. Okay, so if anyone who's a viewer has a question, you'll have to put your hand up so we can a panelist in order for you to speak. If there's anyone in the panelists who would like to have a question or comment there, you can pretty much go ahead and announce who you are and ask your question. I'll look in the live stream as well.
In the in the questions, it says, from Patrick, please tell me when I make the plasma capacitors, the blueprint, do not sorry, I'm waiting for some correspondence which are coming in the background. I got distracted. Please tell me when I make the plasma capacitors, the blueprint do not specify if the aluminium in the capacitor has been nano-coated or not. No, it's not nano-coated. It's plain aluminium foil. And what we recommend to you, if you heard the teaching before, is to do not try to use aluminium and another material for your capacitors, because if you use the paper, it can, because of the high power, can burn the paper. So be very, very careful in how you organize your capacitors, because we have seen it in our system. The paper burns out and it creates a short circuit because the aluminum will touch the aluminum. So you better look into a different type of wrapping, like you can use aluminum and a copper sheet. Use aluminum and titanium and nano-coated and a gas coated. You can use in that coating the powders of nanomaterials and the matter state themselves plus the GaNs. The problem is to understand how liquid state is created in the nanomaterial that allows you to keep the separation of your gases and nanomaterials and matter state. In the matter state, we call it liquid, or we call it like water, which creates that separation. This happens in our body. We carry different gases, and the molecules of oxygen creates a separation. The next step in understanding of making capacitors is this. You have to go a step further, and now that you start making capacitors with gel or with liquid GaNs, understand what it means, the gel. What does it mean? What does the liquid do in the body of the man? It creates a separation that different gases can find their position in respect to the others. That's why we have water. That's why we are made of 70–80% water. The only thing water does in our body is to create the gravitational magnetic field gap that the other elements can move freely in respect to each other. This is one thing that none of you have understood yet. I explained this 2 or 3 times in the past, especially in the teachings of the private teachings. If you understand this, then you can produce coating that behaves exactly like the body of the man. Why do we use gel? To create that separation. And when the gel dries, you lost it. Your capacitor burns out. Try to understand, you add materials with high gravity that are intermediary in between the elements you use as a coating or as a matter state. Because even in the matter state, you're dealing with the plasma. If you choose the right combination of the materials, you don't need lubrication. The material will create their own separation and they'll never burn out. This is what you have to extend the knowledge to. You don't need liquid. Understand the job of the liquid, for example, as I said, in the body of man. The only thing it does, it creates a specific gap that other plasmas, like a calcium and whatever, can operate on there. So you can create the same condition between your capacitors and you'll have total insulation from each other. And none of you have gone that way. You put gel, you put all sorts of things for separation. But if you go back to the understanding of the plasma, it should be very easy to make plasmatic capacitors without any paper, without any lubricant, and you can keep the separation. Your layer of skin works that way. This is how your skin slides over your muscles. Look at the way, the thickness and the structure of the skin of the muscle. What is its job? That it allows the separation. This is what you need to learn. Look how the muscle has a skin, which the bone has a skin, and the interaction of these two allows the free movement, but the same transfer of energy across. You have to add to your knowledge the maggrav positioning in mass, or what we call in contained mass, which is like the liquid in your body. Then you don't have a worry what material is used. Can I use paper? Can I use aluminum? Is it nano-coated or not nano-coated? It will be very nice if you use a nano-coated aluminum as a foil, because then there is a guarantee of transfer of energy, but the guarantee of non-conductivity between the layer of aluminum and the copper. And none of you have explored this avenue. And so many times I thought, one day these guys will see what they're doing. Look, when you make the copper sheets, when you make a copper plate, when you make the wires, and you put a voltmeter and ohm meter on it, it says, look, it's super resistive. It's 1 whatever, kilowatt, megawatt, whatever. What does this mean to you? It's insulated. If you can do the same with another and create a gap breakdown of the energy from one to another, all you need to do is nano-coat the sheets of the capacitor, then introduce the GaNs on it, and then create a separation with it that you can slow down by adding like nanomaterials or powder of the matter state, and roll it like a cigarette. The separation is the insulation, and your nano layers you already proven to be insulators. But none of you go to it, none of you contemplate in developing it to have a fully plasmatic condition. Choose your pin, the gravitational magnetical, separate different materials, nano-coat them, nano-coat the sheets that are fully insulators, that are 100%. Add the material you want to separate and the speed of the decrease or increase of the power. You will create total plasmatic capacitors. And you're still busy with paper and aluminum, and can you use anything else? Yes. Go back to your basic knowledge. Nano-coated material are best insulators. Why do you put paper between the aluminum rolls? Why do you put a paper around the gravitational magnetic pins or windings, and then you put the paper and then the aluminum that doesn't touches the copper, nano-coated? Expand your knowledge and understand it. The problem is, as I said, monkey see, monkey does. But the monkey has to stop somewhere and understand what I do. Is it copying or am I the originator? What have I understood? I don't need to copy. Nano-coated capacitors, if you get it right, it's a very difficult process. If you don't get it right, then say it doesn't work. But if you understand it and you can set it up, you can understand the gradient and the turn and the condition of enforcement of the field, you can very easily work in totally plasmatic, what you call it, non-matter state, but all nano-coated state in the whole process. None of you has gone to use leaves, and I keep on saying, in Africa you don't have the factories. But if you understand how leaves operate, you have a nano-coated paper, as a leaf, both sides nano-coated, you have the transfer of energy. If you can tap it to the stem, you have huge amount of energy, and it never dries up, because the two layers, two sides of the leaf have learned how to create moisture in between, and that's what you got to do. And then you get a huge current flow. And then by change of the liquidity, you can change a capacitor to only absorb the energy of the orange, or energy of what do you call it, apple, or energy of iron or copper. Look into the nature, you will see a lot of work done. We already spoke that the leaves is nanoplated on both sides, and the difference between the fields creates in between the gravitational magnetic field of the carbon, which attracts with it the amino acid for the nano layer to absorb the energy from the environment. Repeat the same thing in your capacitors. You already have done it in the CO2 box, but you never transferred the knowledge from putting the plate in the CO2 box, instead of putting the plates 10 centimeters apart from each other, one nano-coated, one non-nano-coated, and created the gap of the CO2 in between, and you absorb energy and moisture. That's the most natural way you should have gone, and nobody has. I've done it. It's so easy. If you get it right, you have one of the most powerful capacitors and adjust to what you need. Because if you go a step further and understand this, that how is the plants create moisture in between them, that is between the two nanoplate and non-nanoplate, or nano-coated but different strength, then you understand that leaf, because of its combination of fields, has a soul. And if your intention is the same as you put your amino acid in between the capacitor, you control change from gold to water. You want the capacitance to be in the circuit of aluminium or whatever you might need. These capacitors are the miniature version of the galaxies, but none of you have understood. You're still busy with the windings on top and everything else. The winding shows how much energy you want to take from where? From the center. Plates rolling between the capacitors creates a condition of control of absorption. The two pins decide how much of which level you want to take. But no one has been. You're all happy if it's a right turn, if it's a left turn. Can I use paper? Can I use aluminium? And if you go further into the space understanding, the two balls which you put against each other is the same as the two leaves. Now you create a specific position for the change of fields, and you can produce any material you like. I hope some of you understood what I explained. Otherwise, in the future, we'll come back to it again and again. Yes. Okay, no problem. Do you want us to go for a coffee break? Okay, we stop for a few minutes and not to lose the live stream. Set up a daily report. We found that.
Okay, we're good. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, if there are any other questions, can you please ask?
There was one question, Mr. Keshe, in the live stream about, back to it here. They were asking about, I can't find the exact question, but they were asking about the word Tesla came up several times in the description and in the talk yesterday about in Washington and so on. And they were wondering what's the relationship, what's the connection with Tesla as far as this technology goes? What part of this relates to Tesla?
Yes, just tell me. I have to respond to the meeting of last night. Just 1 second, just a message came in. I have to respond.
Rick, maybe now is a chance to help Bernard. Bernard, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was able to turn the volume up on my system. Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, you're coming in clear.
Okay.
Can you tell me, on your Zoom, do you see the start video button?
The what?
On Zoom, where you see this blueprint, there should be a toolbar with the buttons mute, start video, participants. Do you see that?
Yeah, I've got all that bar in front of me there. It's got clear screen green and it's just start video. Yes.
Okay, when you click next to the start video, you should get the list of webcams. Do you get that?
Next to the start video, I've got video settings here.
You got just video settings.
Yeah, that's what it shows here.
That means your computer has no camera installed.
It's got a camera. It's a brand new Mac.
Okay, but obviously this camera is not visible.
I think, are you clicking on the little tiny arrow beside the start video? That's what he's talking about, not the...
Yes,
Yeah.
I am. I clicked on that little arrow. I was on the night with you, Rick, and I didn't touch anything since then, and I showed up, you know.
Maybe you better switch off and switch on your system.
Exactly what I was going to say.
This is usually a problem with Mac. I have that problem. Sometimes it doesn't configure.
Oh, so
Just
maybe,
go out and come back in and we'll take you on and we'll see we test.
all right. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. It says question from Chinese Zhejiang. He asked how to use the electricity supply from the wall to trigger the system. Which aspects should be paid attention to? You have to go to the point from the wall that you create the gravitational plasmatic field forces which can trigger the plasma. This is because you use copper, matter state is 50 to 60 hertz because it's a position where the energy of the plasma can penetrate matter plasma. There's a gap between the structure that allows it. And on the other hand, you have a flow strong enough with a difference in potential in the negativity that allows the pull of the fields of the plasma to flow, trying to feed, that it generates the rotation of the plasma. You got to understand, well, what is the potential difference? Potential difference is the minimum and the maximum between the field flow. The height. This is your voltage. If you understood this, and you can create even coils which has got different material. One of the problem with our system or the way it's set up is you have monoatomic structure, so you have to work with that frame. It's harder to trigger. If you create capacitors, coils of aluminum and copper, you'll find out the lower limit triggers in first and pushes the other one to it. You'll work with much faster system. You need less power. You're still on the 60 hertz, but the plasma triggers itself. And then the flow of the current of the plasma when is superconductor It just drains so much that it feeds the lower to the higher, and the higher triggers to feed the lower, and the system gets going. Try composite coils, you'll find a lot more success. Or try composite GaNs layering. When you make your coils, aluminum with nano-coated copper, with ganses of matters in between the two. You create that potential difference, and then you can work much easier. This is what you need to do. If you pay attention to understanding and working totally in respect to plasma, and separate the two, and understand what the matter state, what nano state, what gas state gives you, and what the plasma state gives you, you become artisans of plasma. And then you can make all sorts of things. Very simple. This coil system we see, if you become and understand the process, you can make it in less than a small 2-inch by 2-inch system. The whole thing, with the pump, with everything else included, that you get a function of the supply. And you can even miniaturize it to 2 or 3 millimeters. It's the understanding which gives you the strength, and depends how far deeper you want to go. As I said before many times, is understanding what the structure is and what you can do with it, and how you can play with it. Always go back to the game between the Russians and Americans. Early 50s, Americans sent a matchbox to the Russians, and they waited. After a while, Russians sent the matchbox back. The Americans said, scientists to the Russians, you did not see there was a wire. We have managed to extend the knowledge that we can create a wire that you could not even see it. The Russians responded, look inside the wire. It's already centralized, hollow. We have made a hole through it. Not only we found the wire, our advanced technology is so much that we can even drill a hole in the wire you thought it cannot be seen. That was the power of the laser beam, the way the Russians were so ahead at that time. But the only question I put to the Americans about it is, you got so carried away, you did not test that it was the wire you sent to the Russians. Russians made another wire, looked the same, central hold it, they tested it, and then they sent it back. It wasn't the same wire as the Americans they thought they sent. It's you understanding, but not getting carried away with the knowledge in the piece you understood, that you can learn more to add more with it. Have you managed to fix your camera yet?
I'm not sure. I came back on. I haven't changed any settings. I'll see if I can share video. See if you can see me anyhow.
Rick, can you allow him, please?
Yeah, it looks like it should have a go ahead there.
You want me to hit share screen?
No, I want you to hit video, start video,
All right.
not share screen. You should not be hitting share screen.
Share video.
You can't.
Just click on the camera. Just click on the camera.
Just click on start video. What do you get?
It says you can't share your video because the host has stopped.
You got to be promoted.
He's already promoted, and there's no.
Oh no, I found it, Rick. It should
Oh,
be
there's
okay.
something else.
Yeah,
Okay.
try again, Bernard.
Yes.
All right. Good. Thanks, Vince.
Bingo. All right.
So
Look,
Apple needs some time resetting. It resets internally.
okay. I'll just grab the container. I'm in my kitchen here. I'll grab my container. I'll just show you what's happening.
Please.
I'll explain what I've done in more detail after. I do have a pin here. I can show it.
You're in the dark. Could you light up? We only see dark glass light on it.
This should be better.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We see your beautiful face.
Yeah, I don't look as old now. I'll just wipe this off and,
You have to bring it up that we can see it. We don't see it.
can you see this?
Yes.
I'm gonna put a light through this, whether it helps or not. You see the hollow space in the center here? I can see.
Where? You mean those punches, the little holes?
Well, the ones on each side, those are frozen. Those are frozen plasma balls. Those solid state that I told you I built. But you can see.
Yes.
You see the fields inside now. Now it's starting to melt. That's not even frozen in there. Look at this. It's coming out of the container already. Let's have a quick look here. What do we got? Bingo. Isn't that cool?
This is beautiful.
Look at that. That inside, the inside, I don't know if there's even water. It may have pushed everything to the sides, but we've got rotation between the two balls here.
Can you spin that around, please, Bernard? Just to slowly.
There you go. You can see them. And there's one of them is a CH3 on the outside, CH3 on the last layer, and the other one is a
Yes, let me explain to you. We done, as most of you done, we put the pen, the paint pen through water. We have a guy who's expert in this here in Italy.
It's the only way you can see the fields.
We've seen the single field. Now we see the interaction of two fields.
Yes, you've got alkaline and acidic here. And I was wondering if you stuck one ball in your solid state coil of alkaline and the other ball of acidic in the other coil, you should get a heartbeat between the two with the rotation. Would that work?
Repeat again that we understand, please.
I'll put this away because it's dripping quite a bit.
Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you very much. Could you explain again what you just said?
If you were to take an alkaline ball in one coil in your solid state, the pictures that you showed, and if you were put an acidic ball in the other coil, between the two of them, there would be a communication there. That would create a heartbeat, would it not? It's just a thought.
Yes, that's what we do.
If you had,
that is part of it, but maybe the media of the water will create that gap resistance capacitance which we need for it.
if you submerge that in water,
Could you test it? Could you test it for us and show it to us next week?
If I submerge it in a mixture of Gans water, the whole setup, I could do the two coils and put a ball in each and submerge it in water. Now, what would that?
We don't know. Open it up.
Okay.
It makes a beautiful picture, because what you showed us is very important, because it's for the first time we see the flow of fields. We can freeze them.
Yeah, they're pretty fantastic.
We can see them. We know our people here in Italy do it as part of showing magnetic field. This ice block, the way you see it, or you shown, when we used it in respect to the pen pens and the pen pads, opened the door with a lot of scientific work in Italy, because for the first time they could see there is some reactions, because that's how they do it. They put it in the freezer, and it started the ball rolling. And it is a very good idea. It's beautiful, because now we see liquid plasma condition. I'm sure if you put the water of the Gans in these bowls without actually the Gans or dried, you should see the same structure.
Of course. I'm working on something else. I've basically been freezing a lot of stuff, but I'm working on some other stuff right now with
Where
material.
do you live?
I'm in Canada here. I'm in East.
No wonder you work with ice so good.
Yeah,
And, Mr. Cash, also Bernard works with maple syrup. In fact, he has some of the best maple syrup, perhaps. Isn't that true, Bernard?
yeah, it came out really good this year. I don't make much. It's more of a hobby. I almost didn't want to tap my trees. I started late and I said, Lord, but anyhow, I did. I used smaller spouts. I didn't go very deep.
Can you explain to us how you make maple syrup, or how do you get the maples out of the tree?
And also explains how you get GANs of maple syrup. That would be good.
Yeah, that's coming along real nice. It was floating. Now it's settling to the bottom. I'm going to continue and start to rinse that. That would be an amazing sugar. This is why I thought, because the stuff I make is pure as you can get it. A lot of the companies will add sugar to their sap. It gives them a bigger volume, but it's not pure. And you can tell the difference when you taste it.
I know, I've been in Canada, I had your maple syrups. But how do you make, could you explain to us how you make maple?
I've got about
How do you get?
I've got about 200 taps, and I just have lines because I'm on the side of a mountain here, and the gravity sends them down into a container. And then I put them into I've got a 6-foot pan, a stove I built, and I boil the sap until it comes down to a certain consistency. I take it off at about 216 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you got to be careful because it varies with the elevation. I'm almost 1,000 feet above sea level here. So that would drop the boiling point. Things can get sticky when the pressure drops too. If you get low pressure system, the boiling point's lower. You get to know it after 20 years. But they just boil down, and then I filter it twice when it's reduced, and then I finish it off and I run it through another set of filters so it comes out clear, and you bottle it at about 218, 19 degrees. I don't know if
how do you make a GANs of it?
I used some caustic, and I put it in. Well, I threw some caustic in it, but I used a bit of hot water at the start. I let it sit for a day, and then I added a bit of vinegar in there. I let that sit for a day, and then I put some dry caustic and started to heat again, and then the separation began to happen. I've done the same with the salt, and I've got the iodine.
Can you repeat the process again?
Oh, for the sugar, for the maple syrup?
No, for making the GANs of it.
Making the GANs, I put the product in a jar, some of it, and then I put some dry caustic. I just shook some inside of it, and I put some hot water in to get it going at first. I leave that settle for a day or so, and the next day what I did is I added some vinegar to it, shook it up, and then added a little bit more dry caustic on top, and then it started to heat up and work again. At that point, it began to separate.
I missed. You put vinegar in it.
I put a little vinegar between caustic.
You just put it in the jar.
Right in, and it separates. Yeah, it sort of releases the structure somehow. And then at that point, I add a little bit more dry caustic, and it will start the action of heating up. Not super hot, but enough. Then things start to separate, and they'll float on top, and I just leave them act for a day, and then you add a little bit of water to it, bring your jar up, and then you see things moving.
Well, you get two different kind of GANSes, one on the top and one on the bottom?
No, it won't start on the bottom. It starts at the top, and then I add more water and shake it a bit, and it'll start to descend slowly. Right now, it's about halfway in the jar. And
so everything descends to the bottom of the jar.
Yeah, then I'll start the rinsing process.
And washing it. And what do you do with it?
Well, I don't know. I thought I'd make this GANs so I could apply it with what you've taught us, and to bring the acidity levels up. Being that it comes direct from the tree, it's probably one of the purest forms of sugar you can get. And the can we have some, please? It's about
if you keep it in liquid state, maybe it'll bring a rapid increase in acidity and the gravitational move.
Yeah, it carries all the fields. I mean, the tree's got everything in it, and
I was going to ask Bernard, do you start the process with the sap hot, or do you start the process after it's been bottled?
Oh, it's after it's been bottled. I just opened a bottle and I dumped some in the bottom of a jar and threw some dry caustic on top of it. I added a bit of water. I did add some water in the bottom with that. And then I put some hot water. Well, the water I added was the hot water, actually. You know, I threw the dry caustic in with the syrup, and then right away I had the hot water ready, and I dumped some in. Yeah, be careful, you'll bust the jar. But I put some in, and then it foamed up quite readily. Got very dark. Left that sit overnight, and then proceeded. Next day, I dropped some vinegar into it. I wasn't too shy with the vinegar. I put a bit and shook it up, and then I added some dry caustic on top, so it worked again. And you can add a bit of water if you want. It starts to separate.
What color does it turn into?
It is black. You can't see. You need a flashlight to see that it's starting to separate. But now I've got a color change. I've added more water after I showed Rick it the other night.
Could we see it? Could you please show us if you can?
Sure. It's a good thing I live alone. My kitchen's a lab. I've moved everything downstairs, but I still seem to bring everything back upstairs when I work. Can you see this?
It's all black. Yeah.
Um,
Can you put a light behind it? Because I think I can see some separation in the middle, right?
It's very thick black.
Yeah, the light doesn't even go through it.
No.
so you can see what's going on here. Can you see something now? There you go. You see it there? It's floating in the center. It's very dark. But after you start to rinse it, a food Gans will do the same, like if a mixture of food, but after the rinsing process.
Try putting the light right up against the jar. See if it'll light it up that way.
Oh, here we go. Bingo.
Go a bit more to the left. Yep. And can you go down with a light that we can see the structure?
See, it's starting to drop. And I have some space on top, which is good because now I can see it's beginning to when it hits the bottom, I'll start to rinse it. And then it'll get lighter after we rinse it. The darkness will leave.
But can you check after you rinse it when it goes light? Hold the water of the rinse and see if you see any black particles at the bottom of it. Just don't throw it away.
That'll be. I never throw anything away. I'll do exactly that. I've got some iodine if you'd like to see that.
Please, it'll be nice. While he's getting the jar, let me explain to you. He said that he'd moved everything down and he brought it back up. In Canada, most of the houses have an empty floor downstairs. They leave it as everything else, but living bodies is there. So they have a full apartment in the basement, and they hardly use it for different things. That's why he moved it back up again in the kitchen.
It gets a lot. I've got 3 stories in the front. I'm on the side of a mountain here. I'm a framer, carpenter, so I got a little bit carried away.
Yes. Can you bring it more in camera? You're on the left. You got to come toward your face. Yeah. And what is this one? Iodine. How did you make this?
You can see the fields underneath here. Isn't that pretty cool?
Yes.
You can see the power of this. You can hardly smell it. I mean, this is really strong. But
how do you make it? How did you make it?
The same way I did everything else. The same way I did with the syrup.
Where did you get the material to make it?
I just used some iodine, regular
metal iodine. Ah, okay.
And with it's 5% iodine. It says on the bottle. It's for medicinal purposes, I guess. But I put it in the bottom, and I went ahead and I put a bit of water in that, and then dumped. Well, I didn't put water. What I did was put some caustic in it, and I dumped the water, and it just it really foamed up and started to work, and then floated to the top, and basically I did the same things I did with syrup, and I've done the same with the salt. As you can see.
Yes, thank you very much. I can see it. Remember what we said, the iodine or any other material you make, copper or zinc, from a plate, the Gans of it, is very much different than the iodine you get from vegetables or animal flesh. If you're working in a condition, especially this goes to our people who make the systems for health purposes, If you use iodine the way you've done from a matter state, it'll never match the iodine you get or you extract or you develop from the trees or plants or the animals. You
Oh,
get a much more effective performance if you are targeting for application in health than you're creating conditions for production or extraction of matter states. This is very, very important, and I have emphasized on this a few times, because if you are using iodine for even the elevation of the soul of the man in conjunction with cesium background X-ray and gamma rays and cosmic rays which comes from it, when you use the animal or plant's iodine extract, you are working at the level which is already in the level of the amino acid. So you're directly in it. You have to understand the principle behind it. When you use iodine the way you do from the matter state, it has not gone through the stage level that which isotopes of iodine will match to the human or the amino acid of the man. As we are getting more and more educated in these things, we have to consider these things very closely, very closely. Are we using iodine for what purpose? Are we looking to create the fields of it that we can create matters to make other things with it? Or are we using it for the health applications or the food application? Then we have to understand the process is already digested, the process is already purified. A specific strength iodine which matches the amino acid of the man has been selected in the process of the creation of the leaf or the muscle. So you're directly in it. When you use, like you, iron material matter state, is totally different. Absolutely different than you cannot, I will not use, you can still use it, but I will not use the iodine you have on a coil or a core which is to be used for the health applications.
okay.
So this goes back to Klaus and the others in the background who work on the doctors who make their own systems. This has to become very clear. I pointed this out last week in a couple of teachings.
How do we extract iodine from other?
Very easy.
This is the key.
No.
For example, Kesh, I've heard that Himalayan salt has up to 5% iodine in it. Would that be a good place to get it, or what were you going to explain?
Yeah, let me explain to you what you do. There are different ways. As we add to the knowledge, we have to understand the process, not just to follow. If you understand the process, then you can play games with it. The process is, you can do the same as the gentleman showed us how to make gold. You go through the same process. But in that process, you use a combination. Can I share a screen and then I can explain? You have to stop sharing.
Okay.
You saw Peter putting one coil. You saw Peter putting one coil and then putting another coil and rotating the two either way, opposite or the same. And then he put a gold GaNs there. Now you have brought a specification in that way. What you can do, you can go and find, let's say, organ of the body of the man which is heavy in iodine, let's say brain, and you place the what do you call that GaNs in this position. This will give you the opportunity. Now you are fractionalizing it. This with this created the fields which this has given a boundary. of the what you need. With this, you collect what it fits into the human body. And at this point, you collect the GANs, which is of the strength you need for a human elevation of the soul or emotion. Something which you have to remember, which is maybe overlooked, is why we have iodine a lot in the brain, but in other places, because every cell carries a soul. So you have this in every part of the body of the man. The collective soul strength creates the soul of the man in totality. So you have the same thing. You run 2 reactors. These 2 reactors, you brought the condition of iodine, which is its matter state, is a composition. And then by introducing the amino acid and iodine from vegetables or whatever, now you dictate narrowing it totally to what you need. And you can literally collect it. And this iodine, if you, for example, place a water, pure water, in this position, the iodine you collect here, the iodine you collect here in the water is the iodine you can use for elevation, pure for the elevation of the soul of the man. It's filtering, filtering, and filtering. But now we are learning plasmatic filtering. But you can do everything in one position. Otherwise, you have to create the GANs of the iodine which you collected in respect to these here, and then load up these again with pure iodine. Then you place this one in here and you collect pure iodine of the soul. It takes longer, but it gets more purified. And it comes exactly to the bandwidth. You can create the strength of the iodine of the soul of a cow. You can create the iodine that creates the strength of the soul of the man. One day you understand what I just said, but it takes time. These are the methods of working with the liquid plasma. You have to learn. You have to understand. And you want iodine of the plasma of the soul of the cow. You can do it because it has a different frequency, different strength. And that's why it became a cow. Understand the strength of the field of the soul dictates the manifestation of the physicality of the entity.
Mr. Keshe, Doug had asked earlier, will we find or see the creator directly inside the plasma?
If you reach the state of the level of the strength of the soul of the creator, yes. Not many have. You have to elevate to the strength of the universal condition, and then elevate into the passing of the what we call understanding of total knowledge of the unicos, which is beyond the understanding of the man. The knowledge we have is so little. We ask to understand the totality, which is at this knowledge, at this present time. We're trying to teach the plasma. We see the problem which people are creating, supposed to be the professors of the science of the man. Now you try to explain the strength of the level of understanding of the soul of the creator. He is pure, he is kind, and is a giver. Any other question?
We've got some questions from Francois about his, let me see, there's one. What if my capacitors are made out of plastic tube with a different GANs inside, with a small coil inside with a big coil on top of it. And
You can make anything.
he says his capacitors are also circular as well.
You can make anything. That's the extension of the knowledge. You can make plasmatic only capacitors. You can make field capacitors, but you have to understand it. Field capacitors are like the atmosphere of the planet. And if you understand that, then you can see you can produce anything without. The field capacitance of the atmosphere of the Earth in respect to the atmosphere of the solar system, in respect to the capacity, the strength of the galaxy, creates the field strength which Earth can absorb from the universe and beyond it. You can do. You don't need matter state. Matter state, in the strength of the amino acid of the man, is very, very limited. Very, very limited. But if you understand the structure in the universal condition, is beyond imagination. As man evolves in understanding now of the work of the universe, you start seeing more and more. And you get enlightened, you understand the work of the fields, and then you bring the extension. The only problem you have, I explained this one to the meeting of Universal Council yesterday. It's you who puts limitation on the enlightenment. When you receive, you do not share. You create the feeding. It's literally me putting a plate full of food in front of you. It's you who decide to eat it, and you eat it, you receive the nourishment, and then this is the same process. When you get enlightened, share the knowledge. And when you share the knowledge, you receive more because you empty the bottle. It means you have shared, you have more to receive. And as you become more and more man of universal community, you will see this. People strive to serve, to give, because by it they receive more to give more. It becomes an addiction. It becomes a path of life. This is what we call, as a Master of the Universe, it's our job to teach. And very few men have ever achieved understanding this. Very few. Only one nearly touched on it. Buddha was one, and only one. And he understood just about the edge of it, but he couldn't understand any further. You have to understand that by giving, you receive more. I've taught this many times. When you get enlightened to share, that you want to share, you receive more to share. It's like a father. When you receive, you don't put the money in your pocket. You share it with your children. And the more you share with them, the joy of them gives you more energy to earn more, to give them more, to see them more pleasure. The job of a man, the soul of the man, has to be the job of the father, to give more. That he receives more than he gets enlightened. And then the more you enlighten, the more you receive. The wiser you become in the art of giving. Look and understand the totality. Not just so much physicality. And this is the problem with the man. Any other question?
Some people are wondering about the new solid state system. When will that information be shared?
We are very stingy. Till we don't finish it, we don't share it, but it's time. We showed it for the first time yesterday. In a way, the reason I showed it in the presentation in Washington was to bring the knowledge. What we say we have, we don't go beyond our limitation. I asked a couple of weeks ago from Berkeley to start producing miniaturized systems, and you've seen the response. In the coming time, we can go literally to absolute, but you have to understand the connection, the interaction of the fields, what you do, how you do it, and you will start creating systems that more or less these miniature systems become the containment for the free plasma fields. It's the next step into use of plasmatic fields and its interaction and collaboration and cooperation with the other matter states. If we put a little hole in all these nanomaterials of the solid state and empty them from their matter state, that they stay in a state of total plasmatic tubes, you will see the energies beyond your imagination. If those of you who are artisans in the work of the plasma can understand what I explained, and I explained how to deplete the matter state from the plasma and the nano state, you can create condition where you can drain the copper from the central tube of the nanomaterial, and then when you add the pulsation to it, it will work automatically. At the moment, the reason you have a problem is because you have a matter state. You create a traffic jam. That traffic jam has a pulse, needs a pulse. Then you go to the nanopulse, and nanopulse is a game which, if the man understands it, will open new doors of technology. And then, if you understood this and go further into, instead of using nanotube, which are hollow from matter state, to work in the liquid state of the gans of the plasma, which is very much like the blood of the man. Where do you think 18 Hiroshima bomb got stored and gets stored within the soul of the man? It's a huge amount of energy. It's a huge amount of manipulation of energy. But at the moment, we have problem if the binding is right or left hand. In time, I have mentioned this a few times before, if you start learning to deplete the matter state from your coils, you need the wire, you nano coated it, you gans coated it to give it shape. Now, if you manage to master a technique, two ways. You can drill a hole within the structure and pass a huge current to it and literally deplete all the copper out of the coil. Now you have a fully nanotube containment where the copper came out. Now it's a pure plasma field center, huge strength, huge power. Or you can create, the way we said, a condition to transfer the matter state from the central tube out without melting it. You work in the plasma condition. Now you have hollow tubes. It's the way you make casting. If you've done engineering, they teach you how you make a cast. You make the mold, you put the metal in it, and then you take it out, and then you put what you want inside that, and then you melt the cage, and the body stays is the shape. You do the same thing with plasma. You use the matter state to create the shape you like, and then you empty the matter state from the structure. Melting it is one way. You still go through the heat. This process creates a lot of problem because in creating the heat to melt the copper, you deform part of the nano layer. Or you can use a high current to melt it because the flow of the high voltage current creates the heating of the plasma of the copper matter state, and you can drain it. Or you can create the systems which is very much like the health system. You stand on one side and you create, you put the system in the middle of a microwave with a difference, the same as the medical unit, one side higher, one side lower. You empty only the matter state from the structure. Doctors in South America have shown us regarding the brain tumor taking the seed out without opening the brain. So you go to the same process. Let me explain to you what it means. This way you might, then you enter another level of, I cannot clean up. I cannot change my the pen.
Try
I-
going over to the tools there. Maybe you can select a different.
I should be able to, let me close this, maybe that's why it's blocking. Yeah, that was the one. This is the reason. New.
You have to clear your annotations. You're annotating on the documents.
We don't want to save. What you said, please, can you repeat, Flint?
Yeah, you just have to clear your annotations.
How do I do that?
Menu and clear it. You are annotating on the document instead of drawing on it with paint.
I need a new, there we are, don't save, we got there.
You have to bring up your annotate menu, and then
Where do I bring it in?
your Zoom window. Your Zoom.
On the top,
Window.
no, on the top of this picture, there is something.
There is one here, share. No.
It will go away
There.
if you stop sharing, it went away now.
Okay. Till I learn this one, I'll be an old man. I'm already old enough. So what you do, you create the same as the health system, a system of a higher strength to a lower strength with a gradient. You put your coil in this system, which is tuned to the same strength of the matter state. You deplete your nano coating from the matter state internally out. You dump it in the salt water or whatever. So now you literally get a hollow snake. You get a tube of nano. And now you play with the fields, not with matter state anymore. Now the resistance, the frequency which you're looking for, 50 Hertz, 60 Hertz, goes through the window. You work on a superconductor, you work on the super materials, and then if you submerge this into the liquid GANs, you enter the work of the galaxies and the universes, because you gain the power, energy, and regress. I think we're about 3 months, 6 months away from this. If the people who get enlightened understand it, they can do it. If you make a hole in your nano coating and heat it up to drain the copper, you have created a hole in your plasma technology of the structure too. So the conversion transformation using gradient of the field is one of the best options. You deplete what you don't need. You can even decide which parts you want to deplete of the matter state. And then you have a capacitors, you have resistors. You can make nanotubes which behave exactly like a full circuitry. A full circuit you have on a microchip, you can create in one nanotube. Nanotubes which we produce have huge applications. You have to understand what a nanotube is. These are the layers of nano, and this is a gap. You have to understand each one of these is a spacing of the atoms of the elements. This middle is a space free because you drain the tube. And then what you can do, you can play in respect layer to layer. What happened? You go with this layer and this layer. The capacitance is different, the strength is different. You can allow, like specifically positioning, this is the copper, make this a zinc, make this aluminum, and then, or place nanomaterials in between the caps. The present transistors, capacitors, microchips, all of what you have, the latest, the most advanced computers, the memory banks, what we buy, terabytes, will fit in the top of the tip of a pen. and much more. Japanese have done this work, but they got lost into it because they were only interested in matter, the laser material. It's known as a cube. Years ago they started it, but financially they don't see it. At the moment you buy the CD-ROMs, you buy the chips. If you get the cubes and nanocube it, you can see that the amount of information you can get in 3 dimensions is unlimited. It's literally unlimited. Nanotechnology, zero-time communication tools and equipments. In next few years you will see. We laugh why we ever used microchips, why we ever used the present electronic gadgets. You carry more or less everything within the sphere of a nano layer. You have 50,000 layers on top of each other. Each one has its own strength and capacity. How do we make the microchips? We connect lines and lines and lines. At the moment, the strength of the component, number of components has become Moore's law. This is Moore's law, Moore's law, Moore's law, plus Moore's laws in the magnitude of millions. And the size will be the size of the pin. That's why we have glands. Our glands work this way. There's nobody sitting in your gland says this is this, it's copper, this is this. The spacing, automatic system. There is no control system in the body, but if you understand the work of the glands, the work of the brain, this is what it does. We still got a lot to learn, but we have to understand first and then step by step to develop. What I call plasma chips, if you call it, are so powerful, is beyond the imagination of the man. Because of what you do with the plasma chips, as you call it, and it needs to go away. You place a power source in the center of your nano-coated field. Everything position is constantly the same. Does not need a power supply. You don't need to connect it. But because it's the strength of the emotion of what you want to receive, you will run the system exactly where you are. I was explaining this to Caroline yesterday. I said a lot of people will come and tell us their system doesn't work. And I tell them one day why. Maybe today is the day to tell, because a lot of you are working on it. Understand, you're building MAGRAP systems. You're building systems which work on plasma and GaNs and nano layers. You're putting balls in the middle of these stacker units, and now you're creating GaNs liquid plasma units. My friend, you have entered into the world of intention. What your intention is to do and what your intention has been to achieve with the generator decides if your generator gives you what you expect from it. Because it's aware of your need and if it's not good for you. I had to explain this yesterday to Caroline. Maybe we all get enlightened. We saw a system well designed, working for weeks. We all of them watched. It was brought to United States, to Washington, to the capital city to be shown. From the time it left the house, it met problems. Because the soul of the system knew the man in the state, in the palaces of the power are not ready for it, but they can learn from it. We brought it to Washington. We tried to get it going. The intention of the man who built this piece, but in soul he knows, because he's a man of army, that the men who control the army in Washington have a different intention of the use once they see the power. even burnt out, it doesn't want to go. It's like a child sitting and holding himself to the tree and the ground. I'm not going out. I'm not coming out. I want to stay home. You all looked at the physicality of the failure of the system. I looked at the soul of the system. I explained this to Caroline last night. With not being delivered, them not seeing the energy unit, but they noticed that they saw the video. It gave the essence of the soul of the man whose intention was that the technology to be used for pieces of it, and we could openly discuss the peace plan on the table. We could explain to the man of power, and we saw how the military immediately on the table responded. Listen to the news, listen to the reading. I'm acting on duty officer. I'm a representative of the American military. We want to talk. We invite you to teach us. The invitation was open. That was the purpose of the generator ever making its way to Washington and never working. Because the soul of the man is aware of the work of the system. You look for dust, I look for the interaction of the dust and what can give. There is an old Persian say, he says, what you see in the pot, I see in the dust of the clay which is made of. Try to understand your systems, why they're not working. Was the intention to show superiority, or was the intention to bring comfort to you and your family and the soul of the structure of your life? Your system does not even need power supply. It will kick in because it sees your need and it needs to satisfy your need. You are too physical. Yesterday and past 2 or 3 days, we had the rampage of physicality. Why the system not working? I stood back and I guided because I could see the soul of action. I said to Caroline, from the time the system was to move, part left behind, things don't happen. Because the intention was in the hand of Washington, such a power, seeing it will drive them into killing more. But it gave us a chance to open the path of peace. Listen, understand the world of politics and the language of military. I'm an acting military officer. We see the soul, and it's the same with your system. When you build the system from now on, understand it can interact with you. You're dealing with gas, you're dealing with your own essence of creation. Now, the sooner you realize this, you'll find out you don't need generators, as the universe is the source of energy to generate what you need. If you go back and listen to the presentation of last night, in talking to world leaders needs mastering art of politics, diplomacy and science. And last night we conveyed all the messages to all three and they fully understood. And I master because I started it, I know it, and I created it. We play very open and it creates a lot of problem for a lot of people who see the openness.
Hello, Mr. Cash.
Yeah, just 1 second. I've just received the message. I have to respond. Just 1 second, please. Yes, carry on, please.
Yes, hello from Austria. This is René speaking. I started to produce gold GANs a week ago, and I tried some experiments with these rotating spheres, and I noticed that there are many particles in my gold GANs bottle, and this picture I want to show if this is okay.
Rick, is it okay with you? You're from Austria.
Yeah, from Austria, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I read something I just received from Klaus. It says, Mr. Cash, setting up generator brought us together very close in Austria. Additionally, we found that we are 3 groups concentrating on 3 topics, which are agriculture, energy, and health. Altogether, we see flight and motion. We would work very close to be in one company, producing and researching on different locations. Would it be okay for you? Of course it is. You Austrians have a different approach and mentality, and it's a pleasure to work with you. Carry on. Let's
So,
if you're happy with it, Rick.
Yeah, I believe so. We'll just have to stop your screen
My
sharing.
sharing. Am I the cause of the problem as usual?
No, not at all.
There we are.
Okay.
okay, I start my screen sharing now.
Yes, please.
Select the window. Okay. This is my gold GANs bottle. It's only a tiny bottle.
You have to wait. Can you? Now we see it for the first time. Can you explain, please, what this is?
Yes.
It looks like an eye.
So I have a small bottle where I collect my gold GANs, and
Your gold.
no,
gold.
this is the GANs that I produced from gold.
Gold.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And when I make the picture a little bit bigger, and I notice that there are many particles lying on the bottom of the glass, and I don't know what it is. So it seems that it must be gold, but as I understand the process, I think the gold is not produced in the gold GANs, but in another place. So I have another picture from this glass, and here you can see the particles lying. There are many particles, and they are not so tiny, so you can see it with.
If you made a GANs, it's got to be, because not all the particles stay at a GANs. Some of them you most probably use a huge amount of heat. So when you come to this position, even the fields which are near the matter state of the gold, they convert to gold. And part of the fields will create this condition and position. It's no problem. Yes, it is. You have made gold, but you started from it. And the fields in that respect can be. And when you make GANs, you separate molecules at the weakest point of the strength in the matter state, and you get flakes of it. And now you see those flakes which separated before the atomic separation comes. It's not the strength. If you test this, it's most probably from the gold which you started. But if you clean it out, wash it, that there is no residue at the bottom, and then you leave it in the cup and you start seeing this created, then this is the production of the field. This is a production of gold from the environment. It's a big difference. Wash your GANs totally. Make sure there is no residual. Do not go to the bottom of the GANs.
Yes.
In a different bottle, wash it a few times that you have no possibility of any matter state, and then leave it. And then you see if you start collecting gold or gold particles. Then this is the true gold made out of the environment.
Oh, that sounds pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it is, because this is part of, we see this in nano production of the copper too. But wash this thoroughly. It's beautiful what you've done. Just wash it further.
Yes.
And wash it 2-3 times. Don't go to the bottom that you collect possibly some of the gold, which could be in the liquid or in the bottom of the jar. And then leave it. And then you see if you create gold. That gold is a conversion of the energy into matter. This is the dream of the scientists for centuries. Because now you work in a plasmatic condition. The gas, even being in the glass, being in the water, is absorbing energy from the environment. And if that energy from the environment, which is mainly cosmic rays, mainly, we absorb huge amount of cosmic ray across our body. If we create a right filter, we create the matter state. So you create a condition and then check. It'll be very interesting. Come back and show it to us next week. Or those of you who have created a bone or phosphor or platinum or silver or whatever, go through this process. Put your ganses, wash it thoroughly, get all the matter states out. Don't go to the bottom of the pot because you bring it back out again. Repeat this 2-3 times and then leave it. Leave the container. You're sure there is nothing when you start, and then see in a few days time, in a few weeks time, you start seeing matter state. And then you here's gold, you see gold. These are conversion of the energy to matter, and this has been the dream of the man. We've seen it in the dynamic system with Peter, and a lot of you others people are testing it now. And then it goes a step further. You have produced, but the first step, especially the first GANs residual, usually carries this amount of original matter. Some are created, but some mainly are from the original plate you used. It's beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you. Just wash it and come back next week, see how we see if there is evolution in it. And to record it every time you wash it, that we see the process. And then leave it. And the best thing to do is to those gold residual you've collected at the bottom with the ganses you don't collect, put it in 2-3 bottles around this new GANs you washed. And you see you might collect gold outside the bottle, not inside the bottle too.
So a last question. I have a liquid plasma where I put some of the gold GANs water into it, and I have a position for this glass near a maggraph that I built, and I found also tiny gold particles in this glass. So the question is...
Let me, you see, people have to understand what you said. You used plasma water of the GANs of gold. You didn't use the GANs of gold. Correct?
Yes. Yes, correct.
And then you put it near a maggraph system.
Yes, correct.
And then you found some gold in the bottom of the jar.
Yes, that's correct.
So you've done the job. It is gold because you created a condition of that's the filter. Whatever comes in that strength converts back into the matter state because you have water and you have the jar. The jar is the boundary of the matter state, so in that state, it becomes gold when it touches the energy of the matter. It reduces and it gives enough energy that becomes that matter in that state. So that is the pure gold you created out of the matter state of the plasma itself. Because when you use liquid GANs or the plasma, liquid plasma, you still have some particles, even you don't see it, in there. And that sets the scene for the totality, and then you see the conversion back into matter state. If you become master in it, I can show you a trick that you can collect a lot of gold. Can I share a screen? Let's see if we can bankrupt the central banks. I need this. This is your, make your tube this way. Let's say this is a meter tube with 20 centimeter tube, whatever. Make a gap in between. If you understand, this is the gap. And then fill these with different liquid gases. Then you tell me what you have collected in these gaps. You can put two different material on either side, and the element you collect here is a composite. It's like you want to make brass. You create the fields of them. The interaction on the matter state will give you composite materials. This is a field of composite materials. And then if you convert it, you get the matter you need. This is how you make composite structures in the universe. You don't furnace, you don't take alloys, you don't make alloys out of different amount of matter state. You bring different field strength of the origin. In the interaction, they give you the composite you need. And it's monoatomic composite, which is perfect. It's better than even making alloys. What you've done, you put the GaNs of gold in respect to a copper winding coil. So what you have is the field flow between the two. But you have to understand with this, because of its freedom and its presetting, here you're supposed to probably collect. Some of you will look at the bottom of your GaN strings, you see materials, but you disguise it because you don't see it. But here you have preset the gold level, so you will collect in gold. And then if you bring it closer or further, you will see the interaction and the speed of the production. And if you get it right, and like putting another system inside, you will find out that very fast you can produce kilos of gold. If you want to, you can mint it, as they say. And understanding the mint is making the coins of gold. Nobody will know. Two scientists in the past few hundred years managed to understand this, made gold out of fresh air, and they disappeared. They reappeared in other places on this planet as very rich people, but they came and they brought their gold and they made when they needed. Rothschild is one of them. Rothschild family were given the secret of making gold. And in the process, they lost it somewhere, and then they knew, and the rest of it is illusion of delusion, and they now become central banks. And for the first time, I'll teach it to you, and you're testing it, and you're seeing it producing. Make shops and sell gallons of water of the gallons of any product and let people go home. The government asks you for gold. Oh, I have a gallons of gold. You have a core running. How many kilos I have to give for my taxation this year to be a free man, to do what I like, to enjoy my soul. You give it to them. The biggest problem now is where we're going to stack all this gold people are making. If you understand the process the way you just explained and speed it up, you can make few kilos of gold every day. Put it this way, the earth doesn't respect the sun. Where do you think our gold comes? Just came before and finished? Every day our planet creates a mixture of elements and it deposits it, rains on us. We go to shower and we wash it. Beauty and the kindness of the Creator showers on man, but the man has not got the intelligence to understand it. Any other question?
Hello, good morning, Mr. Cash. This is Paul from Togo.
Hi, Paul. Good morning. How are you?
I want to know fine. I want to know if you have received my PDF, my PowerPoint.
Nope. Who's got it? Rick, have
I
you
have
received
sent it directly to you, and I sent
to me? I have not seen such a thing.
I sent also to Rick.
Paul, you sent me some pictures. Yes, I've got the pictures.
Could you show it, please? I haven't seen anything on my email from you, Paul.
Yeah, I sent also, Mr. Rick, I sent you the PowerPoint file.
No, I haven't seen it.
Let me have a look here.
Hello, this is Lucy from China. I have two Chinese want to share something. One Chinese sent me the video of his system. I don't know where I can send to. Sorry, could you give me your email address so that I can send you?
Send it to webmaster at the Spaceship Institute or cashfoundation.org, and then we send it to Rick. All communication goes through webmaster. We don't give private emails. If you send it at webmaster at spaceshipinstitute.org or cashfoundation.org, you can very easily do that. Let me explain to a lot of you who don't know, and this is very important, especially if you are sending files of videos. Uploading these things takes a lot of time and a lot of bandwidth. Use a company called WeTransfer.com. WeTransfer.com allows you to send files below 2 gigabytes very rapidly. You just need the email address, and it's very easy for us to open to see. We don't need to download and wait. It's very fast. Within a matter of a minute you can load up. With a matter of minutes we download it, and if it's not downloaded within 7 days it disappears. So it doesn't take time on it. If you download it, then you can keep it. WeTransfer.com is one of the easiest way for you to transfer videos to us. Go on the internet, put WeTransfer.com, and you can use the facility. Just put WeTransfer.com and send it to webmaster@cashfoundation.org. We see it, we can immediately decide yes, no, and what we can do with it. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do If you can send it to the webmaster now, maybe we can look at it this morning, please. Are you
Okay,
still there?
Mr. Cash, I will send to the email. Okay, I will send right
Please,
now.
we immediately look at it. Vince, could you keep an eye on this to come up?
Yeah, the both of them have the question is that the light is light, but the compressor is not work. Yeah.
Yes, you have to see if the output at your generator is 110 or 220, if your system is a 220 system or 110. Everything has to be matching on the same order. If you are using a fish tank, you're producing 110 output and your pumps are 220, you will find out you don't have enough power to bring them into what do you call it, infinity loop as we call it. This is the problem, and I explained that. That's why I said if you live in the country, is in China 220 euro power or 110?
Yes, it's 220, and
So fish
they
pumps,
test the voltage is only 114. Yeah. So I
yes.
think
So
that's
your
problem.
pump is 110, you will never get your capacitor and compressor unit matching up. It's too weak. That's what I said, you have to change to 220. We put a note on this on the, what do you call it, the blueprint. Those of you who live, the system we have put, it tells you really, it says 120 volt system. So all you need to do is to use a generator of 220, but not a signal generator or power generator. You have to use what I call a standard generator, kick in the plasma, and then it'll happen. There is a secret in this process, maybe I have to explain, but is Douglas awake? He can join us. You see Douglas in the background, or is still asleep? These compressors carry magnetic field wiring, and that's the secret to their work. You have the system, which is now nano-coated, creates its own magnetic field and holds its own. That's why this technology works so easily with these things. But you have the problem of the matter state to kick in. So 220 has to have a power supply of 220. With 110 fish tanks, it says specifically what it is. The blueprint is 110. You change anything you see 110. If you got a 220, you have to change everything to 220. The compressors 220, the power generator 220. But as we said with the research center, innovation center, when you go above 140, 4 capacitors are too weak to carry the power. It's so much energy comes as an impulse. You need to increase the number of the capacitors to 8 to 12 without burning your capacitance. Is Renan in the background? Is he awake? Renan, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Renan, would you like to explain this, what you've seen in the Innovation Center with the spikes in the power with your capacitors?
Yes, especially for the 220 volt setup, the blueprint that is released is specifically with the same prototype of Douglas, which is working at a 110 volt. So for the 220 volt setup, we require more capacitors because there are surge of the current coming from the power. It's amplified, so it needs to hold more current. So we increase the capacitors to 8 or 12. So you can start with 8 capacitors. But if we can design the better capacitors, you have your own design to work with, you can use that as well. But for the design that Douglas has made, so we can utilize 8 capacitors to 12 capacitors. And we need 12 for the 220 volt system. We need to know that you need to check the compressors line, because if you see in the diagram, we have the R and S. You need to check the S wire, or what we call the starting coil of a compressor, the voltage that's come out from it, just to check, because most of the compressors that we have here, even it's 220 volts, it comes out with 110 volts only, even it's 220. In the US, they have 110 volt compressors, which has an output of 110 volt as well. So that is why it can create a pump loop, infinity loop, with a refrigerator and ref, and can have extract more power in the environment using the MagRev system. So, but 220 volt systems, we need to do something with the compressors, or if you can find 110 compressors, much better to test with the 110 first, if you have access to that for this particular design.
Okay, Ronan, could you please produce a blueprint for 220 system, please, and post it?
Yes, Mr. Kesh. We are still verifying the number of capacitors and the flow of connection for the 220. We will put it up. Okay. As soon as we complete it.
Thank you very much. These are the developments as part of we have to separate the system between 110 and 220, but your plasmatic condition at the end will be applicable for both. It's just to start a system in the components which are ready in the market that you can use. With our work, we look at about 12 capacitors. It's very easy. You got to do what to see the power of your output. What you do when you go to your generator, rotating the speed of it, because you're reversing a motor into a generator, put a voltmeter and see what are the maximum voltage out of your system. Put a voltmeter with 1,000, 2,000 volts capability of measurement, and see how much what is and what peaks come in. How does it jump? Some systems go to 600 something. The small pumps, if you get the speed of rotation, the fish pumps in 110 can go up to about 600 to 1,000 volts with the current. You immediately go into what they call plus condition, 1+, or supplying more energy than you're actually producing, or you're using to produce the energy. This is very easy, you can check. But in that process, you can see the peaks, and the peaks allows you to go further and what you can do. What we think the ratio could be is one capacitor per half a kilowatt when it comes to the 100 and 220, and one capacitor about 0.75 to 1 kilowatt for 110. So if you get that in mind and understand the power of your peak of your generators, then you look around about 12 to 16 capacitors. And this is important to give you a guideline, and depends again how you make your capacitors, how you arrange your capacitors, and if your capacitors is in line with other things, with other facilities in your system. Try to only use nanomaterial coated all the way along. Don't mix wires and capacitor and nano coated wires. Make sure your loop from the point of interaction with your power supply to trigger the plasma, everything has to be in nano coated condition, especially when you go into the solid state systems. We will show you the solid state system very shortly, and this pump situation goes out of it, but it's part of the process of the development, and it's there for you to see and to repeat.
Hello, Mr. Cash.
Who's speaking?
And Anzai. Here is An.
We are still waiting for Paul to see his videos or his PowerPoint.
Sorry，那
Yeah,
个
I'm working on it. I'm working on it here. There's about 30 pictures or something. I have to download each one individually and set them up individually, and it's a lot of work here right now. But I'm trying. There is a video PDF. I'm not sure if the pictures are in the PDF or if I'm supposed to download those separately. Maybe Paul, you can help me with that. Is that are the pictures in the PDF? Do I need to download all of the pictures and set them up, or are they already in the PDF?
Only, yeah, you have to download only the PDF.
Okay, well that's helpful. Then just give me a minute.
I have a question。那个自打机，你可以过来帮我翻译一下吗 ？Hello。
I tell you something, Paul. You send me a PDF email with a lot of boards with the holes in it. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, but yesterday I sent the presentation. How the way that I have sent it, I have sent it yesterday.
No, I remember now, I saw an email from you with a board with a lot of holes in it. I was wondering what are these holes for? What are you doing with these holes you made on this board? Are you listening to me, Paul?
I will need I will need the PDF to let you understand what I have done, because it is most so I have made settled it in a way that it is easy that you will understand, and within like that to I can send you now again the file, and you can see.
I'm trying to get it downloaded properly from the cloud, and so I can open it in the right application. Just be a minute here.
Yes, let the other gentleman speak, Paul, till we are ready that we can share. Somebody was speaking. Can you tell us what you wanted to tell us or teach us, please?
Hello, Mr. Cash. This is Lucy. Just now, I'm Jai, and his Chinese name is Yanan. He want to ask you a question. If he had designed a core system, and he want to ask you if his system can replace the compressor. So please let he speak, and I try to translate for him. Okay.
Rick, have we have access to this? Can we do this? Or you are too busy in the background with the other one?
I'm here, Mr. Keshan. Yes, she can translate in the meantime for Anzai.
Could you promote the person that we can see?
Yeah, they're both here.
Okay, because I have to stop sharing. I'm the cause of the problem. Okay. There we are. You can share.
We don't have any pictures yet. It's just a matter of a question being asked, and she can translate. Ruthie, can you do that, please?
Yes, I can. I can try to speak Chinese to him, explain, ask him. 亚楠，你的屏幕可以分享吗？你可以分享你的图给大家吗？还是要我这边来做屏幕分享？
我已经可以了。
OK， 好，那我帮你翻译就可以了。So he's ready.
Yeah, he's ready. Okay, tell us what we see. We see the two compressors. We see the stacker unit. We see the capacitors.
是这样的，那个我们从昨天晚上完成了这个装置，然后呢
Okay, wait.
请稍等。
Douglas, is Douglas or Wernie online?
I'm here, Mr. Cash.
Werner, could you be kind enough to look at this and enlighten us, please?
Okay.
Okay, carry on, please.
请继续。
昨天晚上我们完成这个装置，然后呢，我们今天早上去测试，我们用的是汽车的电源加上逆变器，但是呢，我们那个逆变器可能有问题，没有达到效果。回家之后呢，我们用的是电机来启动，但是启动不起来。我希望开始先生，来，就是我询问一下，就是说用这个逆变器这一块是不是可以达到启动装置的一个效果？
你说的逆变器是什么？
就是12伏的直流的电源转变成220伏的交流电。
你用这个东西，这个不是开始的那个蓝图里面的，对吧？
对。
然后你的意思是说，你用这个逆变器不能做到什么？
可不可以启动这个装置？
那你用它来替代它蓝图里面的什么东西？
替代那个电机。
Okay. So the question from Yanan is, he tried to use a converter, which is.
He wants to use what?
Converter, which is a converter from a 12-volt DC to 220 AC, and he wants to use this to replace the motor in the blueprint design. He asked if this can work him, but
yes, why not? Try.
是的，开始先生说可以。那你的问题是什么？他说你可以试。
那这个这一块那我就知道了。然后我有一个就是说替换这个。
Let me explain something very interesting.
他会跟你解释。
You have to plug your pump, both compressors, into your load in reverse. I hope you understand, and I hope you do that.
Sorry, Mr. Cash, I can't understand.
You see, the two pumps are connected in the infinity loop, which means they are connected to each other. Yeah?
Okay, you mean the compressor?
Yeah, the two compressors, the two black units.
Okay, the two black device, okay.
Yeah, but these black devices need to be supplied with the power. So when you go, for example, to that yellow plug, Werner, correct me if I'm wrong. When you connect, let's say, the pump with a silver or aluminum foil on top of it to the yellow distributor plug, if you put the negative on one side and positive on the other, because still you work on the what do you call it? I have this. What I'm going to draw, I'll correct me if I'm wrong, Werner. From this one here, you connect to the positive, and from here, for example, you connect to the negative. You're creating a loop, and from this one, I have to choose a color. You don't have the, no, let me see. Let me go for a color you can see blue. For this one, if this is the positive here and negative here, and this is positive here and negative here, you connect the negative of this, yeah, to the positive, and you connect the positive to the negative. Then your system automatically goes in an infinity loop. Not only it feeds itself to the plug, then it becomes the consumer of its own energy. That's how you create the loop. Am I correct, Bernie?
Yes, Mr. Cash.
This is the trick to this system, and in normal condition it doesn't work. In a matter state, it doesn't work. But because you're in a plasmatic state, it works. This is a trick which most of you have not even realized. You have no choice to connect the positive of this to here and the negative of this to the same side. You connect the negative of this to the positive and the positive of this to positive, while the system is feeding, generating electricity to go around the circle to come to itself. You put on your load the load you need. This is the trick, this is the secret about this setting. You plug your capacitors, your, what do you call, the compressors to your own load, and at the same time, as is loading and they are working together, you are draining energy from it. You look at the polarity of the poles of your compressor when you connect. None of you have realized this. This is very important. You remember
does that make that sort of an infinite, a feedback loop onto the infinity loop itself?
Yes, it's a Maglev feedback. This is another way of the capacitors. If you remember when we made the capacitors, we had the gravitational system, and then we looped back one to itself, and one went as a capacitor battery. It's the same process. This was in a solid state. Here we're going more in a plasma state. This is, thank you very much for putting these pictures up. It's fantastic what you brought on, but we have to understand what we are doing here. If I clean this up, can you clean the board for me, please? And with the rest of it? Can you rub the rest of the picture?
If it doesn't work, then stop sharing. You can.
Oh, I'm cleaning it myself. I'm cleaning it myself. It's okay. Yeah, no problem. Let me just do my work here a little bit. I'm a messy worker. You see here, you have the positive. Here you have the negative. We're talking about this yellow box here. You have two positive and two negative. From the pump 1, here is your positive, this is your negative. You come from the positive into the positive. You come from the negative into the negative. Okay, we're gonna find a way to do it. Here with the pump 2, you have positive here, negative here, positive here. You take here the negative and you go over to the positive. And you take the positive and you go to negative. Your plug becomes your feeder and a generator. You loop feedback in. Vivek and John, who work in the back in the support, and Redden, you have to put this in a blueprint that people understand. If you remember when we made the Maglev unit, we indicated the polarity, which way you have to connect it. And this point, these are not only the load, but they are the producer, the generator too. Internally in the box, they are operating like this. You can't just plug it in. When you make your connection inside and you take your two wires out, you're taking the load out. But internally here, I'll try to now go to the next thing to clean that you can see. Um, what you are doing, you are connecting the positive of this to the negative of this, and you are connecting, excuse me, you are connecting the positive of this to the negative of this. And here you're taking two lines out, which goes to your power. You can do this internally, or you connect it to the power supply where it self feeds and becomes the generator to itself. This is the trick in this game. You're taking from the same wire positive, negative, and you're taking from the other power line negative, because you're in the infinity loop. If it goes back to the understanding of the system, you remember magnetical becomes the gravitational, and the gravitational becomes magnetical. This is pump 1, pump 2. It's you who decide to take energy from here and from here. You're taking from the magnetical of the one or gravitation of the other one. And in fact, it looks very ridiculous how it does. Sorry, this is here, not here. In fact, it's the same thing. It's the same loop, but you take at the weakest point and the strongest point of the other, you create the rotation. If you look at it, is this way. If I can do this, then you can see it. Is you have the two loops, you have the two systems. Here it's at the strongest, here is at this much more strongest, because here is the strongest in a weaker field. But here is the strongest in the strongest field, because in the interaction, all the top layers, it's like peeling a fruit which has many layers. The top layer is stronger in magnetical, but the inner layers are stronger in gravitational. And as the system goes, I taught this last week, you reduce the magnetical strength, but when you come here, you got more powerful systems, more powerful energy. And it's the same vice versa with this one here. You start with a strong magnetical, at the point of conversion, you become strong in gravitational. So what you're doing, you're in fact tapping into a very self-made potential difference. Because if you connect to here, you are dealing with the same source, highest to the lowest. Or you can connect to here. It's the same process. That's how the loop feedback comes in. It depends which one you connect to positive, and when you connect your system is, I have to find another color, is the potential difference has to be there, that trying to feed the strongest to the weakest, you connect energy and you tap into it. It's unlimited, megawatts, gigawatts. It all depends how much strength you can carry within the center and how much flow you can allow. If you look at this, in reality, you don't need any of this. This is a waste of time. But this is the way you understand. The coil is the controller of the fields, how much converting of the plasmatic matter to a plasma state. If you look at your circuit in a very simple way, Here, this capacitor, this setup here is a converter. And these two are your balancers. If in your designs place this in the right position, you can dictate a lot of things. You choose things randomly, but if you look in your structures and understand the work of plasma, it's not wires anymore. You're looking for all these wires. Look at the interaction of the fields, because this is not creating DC or AC. These two, because of the condition of these, are creating plasma condition. So where you put your coil, how you position these to each other, from now on matters. It's not anymore wires, it's the fields, and you have to go through this transition of understanding. That's why, for example, we created the stacker 3 on top of each other. If you look at the blueprint, how each one is nano-coated, GaNs-coated, is to create a flow. The Innovation Center, people have to start understanding the use of these things, and you have to become alert to it too. You create a loop. This is your loop. Do you want to tap in the strongest and the weakest of one, or the weakest and the strongest of the other? And then you see your system performance changes. You use the same compressors, but you cannot do. I watched this yesterday with Douglas in presentation, but I thought he hasn't understood it. I cannot interfere. Because you see it working, but I don't understand why the system works. Sometimes it doesn't work some other time. Yes, because you haven't understood what you're dealing with. You're dealing with the flow of the fields. You call it a negative and a positive of the system. Negative, positive. Here, I want to give. My magnetical is more powerful. Here, I want to take. Here, I have to give more because I create the capacitance. I have a step down or a step up. That's why you have the capacitor in one of them, because they never match, and not matching, one tries to feed the other. So now that you make your connections, the important thing for you is, are you tapping into the positive of this one and the positive of this one, or are you tapping into the negative of this one and negative of this one? Are you tapping in the positive of this and negative of this? Because now you're dealing with the field flow, but because you have a pump in front of you, you think that's what the pump does. No, because now the pump itself, as you've seen, is part of the plasma circuit. Thank you very much for bringing this picture on, because it clarifies a lot of work.
Thank you, Mr. Cash.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Yanan, he have his design to use the core, the balls, to replace the capacitor, compressor, pumps. Yeah.
This is very correct. You are very correct. This is part of what we are doing in the Innovation Center. It was shown last night by Vernie to the American audience. And
Yeah.
you're very correct. You can do it. I would like to see his design, then we can comment on it, or Vernie can comment on it, please.
Yes, he want to show it to you.
Please.
OK， 亚兰，请把你的那个图片调出来。
This is a liquid plasma containers. I have to clean up. This is a liquid plasma condition. Am I correct? He's using, I have to clean up the mess. Okay, carry on. Yes, I can see it. This was shown, this combination work was shown First time by Bernie and Renan in Dubai conference. A lot of people didn't understand it. Bernie, would you like to comment on this because you're expert in this?
Yes, Srikant. What is not shown in this drawing are the coils in between the ganses, in between the bottles. So there are 3 MagGrab coils. Can I annotate?
Yes, I think you're already doing.
Okay.
Let me clean up my print. Let me explain to you what Bernie is doing. We have already developed this in the Keshe Foundation. There is some pictures here on overlapping. We have already developed this in the Innovation Center in conjunction with the coils. We showed it last night. And this is a combination of the plasma GaNs and the nanomaterial coating. You can create such a thing. It's very easy, but what I explained to Bernie when he wanted to do this, when we make commercial units carrying liquids, this will be part of the problem. So we have gone a step down into the matter state to create such a thing in the coil structure. And what Bernie is going to explain to you is that the structure which I've designed, and when he has added a different connection at the same time to it, it works like a heartbeat. And it becomes self-sustaining system. Go ahead, please, Bernie.
Okay, this is correct. The interaction here is correct for, let's say, for this side. What I have shown yesterday, what you notice, we have this container and this container and this container and one in the middle.
Use a thicker color pen. It's very faint what you're doing, please.
Okay.
Use a thicker pen.
Wait, it's not working.
There's a lot of same color on the board.
I'll just remove my, no, I cannot remove. Okay, I'm removing my previous.
I'm removing what I put in there that you can carry on showing your clean sheet now. Carry on.
Okay, I don't have the option here for a thicker, here it is.
It's a lines drop down.
Okay.
It's on the screen. Yeah. Okay.
So this part here, these are containers here, 3 and 1 in the middle. What I have are these are liquid plasma. Yes, they are arranged in a correct manner. What you did not notice are the MagGrabs in between them. Here, here, and here, which have connection like this. They handshake with each other. MagGrab in a way that you have magnetical and gravitational in the middle in each of the coils. And if you have this configuration.
Just wait 1 second. Can I add something, please?
Okay.
You got to understand here, we've gone to the next step. What Bernie is explaining now is that where he put these blue circles, these are, you don't have, these are field interactions. You have to, from now on, to count on these. You can't just put the bottles and say, I connect the bottles. The bottles configuration creates a star formation, and each of these points, as Bernie is showing, each of these points, let me get my pen back. Each of these points don't exist in a matter state. You can't see it. But when you organize your system that you tap into energy at a certain point, you'll find out you absorb different energies. And that's what when he's talking about how, where you connect and These are now, we are dealing with the GaNs, plasma, liquid, and field strength. You use the plasma, liquid plasma to create a point of field, and then you connect that point of field, your system, to each other. Am I correct?
Yes. I suggest when seeing this drawing, we see it all in field interaction. Just see it that way. When we connect, let's say if we connect a wire from CO2 to any of the, let's say, wires also that are, all of these are nano-coated. When we connect, consider it as a directional flow from a liquid plasma to the nano layer, to the fields. These are all fields interaction. And when we see it that way, it will be easier for us to evaluate the reaction. Okay, can I continue, Mr. Kes, to
carry on? Yeah, it's just we fill in the little information between you and me that they understand most of it.
Okay, let me use another color. Let's say I think the flow here. Okay, let me label this. Oh, it doesn't change the color. Oh wait, I don't have the. Here is the color. It's not my color. Okay, undo. Okay, let me label this as the red one as our magnetical on each of the coils, or each of the nano-coated coils, and let's say this one as our gravitational, the center one. Okay, the connection would be from here and going there and going there. You have halfway extending your magnetical, and gravitational receive it somewhere in the middle, and so in this one. So you have now a flow similar to your black arrows there. So from magnetical, which is the red one, magnetical to gravitational, so mag to grav. So you have now the flow. Then now why they are placed in a manner this way. In here you have CO2, for example, on this side. As you can see, this CO2 is in proximity, is very near on these two fields here. Here, the fields of the mag-grav. This CO2 is also have its own field, so they are already interacting. But this CO2 is very far from the other. So to complete the reaction of this container, of this field of CO2, we extend this towards there, here on this point, on the grav of the opposite coil. You do the same here, you do the same there. So in here, they are interacting. 3. In here, the same, and there are 3. We have always working in 3 here. And in order to supply the other one, which is of the opposite, we intentionally connect it through there, on the opposite, on the leg of the mag-grav, which is the grav. This is more giving GaNs, so it should be received by the receiving end, which is the gravitational of the opposite coil. Now, the center one, which is more gravitational in strength, the lead GaNs, the liquid plasma, the middle one, you can then connect this to this one, to the magnetical, that one, and that one, and this completes the circuit. So we have pole interaction of everything in here. So all the GaNs interacts to all the coils. So each GaNs interacts to all the coils, and the connection is correct in a sense that from magnetical goes to gravitational, and magnetical goes to the center also.
Okay,
of the-
can I ask you one thing, please, Rennie? You have, this is theoretical picture which he has drawn. Could you show us a real one which you have? Then people can see it. Why we understand it. Can you show us one of yours?
Okay, I'll get the photograph for that.
Okay. We see what you're showing. You've seen the teaching last night to the American scientists or American organizations, wherever they're at. And you have understood it, you've seen it, but you have to understand the totality of it. This part of development has been on with us for some time. We have even taken it into production in the factory in Italy. Brennan can show you the blueprint of this energy system structure. We understand this fully. Vernie is very good at this development.
Okay, can I share screen?
Yes,
So,
you can stop sharing and then we take over for a second, please. Can somebody stop sharing from our Chinese friend? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Cash.
Yes, you just to wait, please. Please wait. This is the setup.
Okay, this is what I've shown yesterday, the 3 units. These are 3 units. You only need this one. What we have discussed is only one. It's hoping that I took a picture of 3 units these are for testing at that moment. So
you see the picture, even, can you go back? Yeah.
Okay.
You see here the picture, the bottom one, our people are still using matter state to nano state. If you look at the red wire, it's still not nano coated. We still have problems understanding these things.
Yes, at this point of assembly, it is not yet nano coated, but I was in a hurry. I know it will get
I
nano.
understand. I was just trying to say you got to stay in nano coated condition.
Yes, but this will work in 4 days' time. It will be, you know, the more you use it, the more it becomes efficient. Anyway, they are short wire, so I did not worry about it. But
no problem.
every year becomes nano coated. I'll show you step by step how this was made. So you prepare. The coils are made this way. They are done this way. This on the right side. On the right side on this photograph is the gravitational coil. This is the inner coil. They will be inserted in the middle, and you see the other one. There's an extension wire, and also on the other end, you'll connect them this way. So we have an inner coil and an outer coil, and you connect the other end this way. So to have a continuous flow. So we have a magrab, a very small magrab. As you can see, that's my finger there. So that's how small it is in ratio. So you have 3. Then I folded them this way, that when I put them side by side, they will receive each other this way. That the distance here is enough for the container to get inside. So they will hold this in this manner. You see, outer coil, magnetical, is received by gravitational on the next, and going here on the other side, and so on. So they are in, I would say, in a counterclockwise or a giving flow manner. So the winding also here is from the winding also is the same as how they are mag to grav. It is counterclockwise. Okay, let's go to the next page. They are connected. Then I nano coat them. Now I connected a wire. This red wire as you can see, they are connected on one side only, but maintaining on the same side, which is the magnetical of the coil. You see, when you have this connection, let me make this bigger. When you have this connection here at the junction, we also have this separation. The other side is magnetical, the receiving end is gravitational. Now this red wire is connected on the magnetical. All of the magnetical have this single wire, and later on they will be connected in the middle container. So next is I prepare, since we will connect this to the container, of course you will insert the wire in the container, and they should be touching something in the container, which is liquid plasma. But in the liquid plasma, we have, again, nano-coated coils submerged inside. And this is how it is done. I only use single coils there, but they convey polarity in a manner of winding. So I've been using this convention ever since we've been using coils, and we are aware of this polarity. Even if they are not nano-coated, they respond properly when they are done this way. Like for this one, the clockwise one, they respond very well when they are as negative, and the other one as positive. So for the lead guns, what's inside there, since lead guns is, let's say, more gravitational, I will pair it with more magnetical coil. So this is not a double coil, this is single coil. So this is pairing of more gravitational and more magnetical. CH3 more magnetical or more giving. I pair it with a receiving coil, which is gravitational. So this will be inserted in the bottles and connected with this corresponding wire. For the lead guns, you have this red wire, and what you see on the outside containers, we have the blue wires. Okay.
You are releasing the whole blueprint.
Yeah, because you asked me to explain, and there's no other way to explain.
With the greatest pleasure, we have no problem. If you look at the heading of these papers, these were completed on 23rd of May. It's already, when we teach or we were talking last time to the Americans, was we know what we're talking about. It's been with us, development and everything, over 6 months. So
yeah, and
this is our understanding of new technology, which is beyond.
This is already running before that month, I think April.
Yes.
And it's documented after a month. We've been running it already this month. So let's go back to this photograph in the middle here. The gravitational is where we connect the blue wire coming from the bottles on the opposite side. So that's the complete setup on this wireless setup. This works wirelessly because the moment you connect the last wire, it will work automatically, instantly. The moment, let's say, the moment you disconnect the middle wire, the field will collapse. And when you connect it back, it will turn back on as if you're popping, you're making a balloon, an instant balloon of fields. And you can literally feel it if you put your hand on top of the containers. It's very strong field. You can feel it. So this is how it's done. And the previous drawing presented to us is correct, the field interaction. And what's lacking is this. I use shrinkable tubes, rubber tubes here, just to protect the coating, because I've been handling this during assembly. So to protect the coating, I use the shrinkable tubes. And for this time, when I open up one of the wires, in fact, I did open all the wires just to see it. Nano coating starts, and it all started among the in the group of stranded wires, it started from the middle going outwards. That's how it started, the nano coating. Okay, I think that's the this is all of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bernie. Now, can we go back to our Chinese friend? Let him explain what he's showing us, please.
OK，亚楠，现在的话，凯子先生，请你解释你想要说什么。
是这样的，在这一个ReNAND 的这一个结构里面，然后如果说用钢丝球来代替这个 CO， 然后 CO2 和 CH3 这个结构，如果在两组的这样的结构里面做一个循环的话，是不是可以
Maybe can you explain something here, Bernie? Correct me if I'm wrong. There is a problem in your setting. You have disturbed your flow, and it will be if you want it to go the right or the left-hand flow. Your CH, CuO, and CO2, this field flow is totally the opposite. If you change the position of CO2 and CuO on the left-hand one, then you are correct. This picture by arrow doesn't fit into the understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bernie. The flow here is because the what do you call it? He has a. I need this. Wait 1 second. Correct me if I'm wrong. The flow always comes from CH to CO2 to this, and your flow is this way, not this way, because it's magnetical feeding gravitational. Here you have a flow which is this way, and in your drawing is, to me, the way I understand it and we work with it, is your drawing is the blue one. You are feeding from the magnetical into a gravitational. You are feeding from a magnetical from gravitational, and then you are feeding from a magnetical in comparison to that. This is a conflict, and then you see your system doesn't work. Here you have the same problem. If you look at it, your system is feeding to this, and it's feeding to this, and you have an absolute chaos in here.
Okay, this is with respect to each containers, right?
Yes, but when you get a field flow, it's not homogeneous. Even though the flow here is from this to this, and it's from this to this, and it's from this to this, you have a conflict of the flow.
Okay, not a problem, Mr. Kesh, because we have this wire redirecting the liquid plasma flow to one of the legs.
If you redo your wires, you'll find out you get a better efficiency, bigger expansion of fields, because you are losing part of your fields in these interventions, in this misfit of the fields. You understand?
Yes, yes, I understand. That's why on our next version of this, that's the moment we were able to reach the bigger field when we put another container, or when we rearrange the what we call the bottles, with the moment we put somewhere in between of them.
Yeah,
and
it's just that when you start working with plasma, you put the matter state, you put the nano-coated state, and then you look at the plasma flow, field flow, very clearly. You don't need to waste time. All it is difference between 1 kilowatt and 10 kilowatt. Because once you create a barrier, then a lot of energy is used to overcome this barrier. Once you create a free flow, you'll find out the field will keep on expanding and expanding. A little, that's what I say, a little notice to detail make a huge difference in the outcome of your system.
Yes, we've noticed that, Mr. Kesh. Imagine from 3 meters to 34.
It was just by replacing one bottle.
Just by rearrangement.
One bottle. This is why. And then if you want to increase, this is what I said last night to the American military, and it was understood fully. If you even bring the distance of these closer, the positioning you have, if you bring these distances closer or further, or changing the composition of this, you can increase your fields to 34 kilometers. I'm good at this. I've done this for many years. Very, very little. People don't notice it because you're so materialistic. A little positioning will give you a field distance beyond your imagination. How the bottle sits, where you put the bottle in respect to each other. You see them closely packed, but in fact you have to look how far. Why does it expand? Because what happened, this is the replication. Let me explain to you, you understand this fully. I have to take this out, because those of you who are in the dynamic version of this, like Douglas and Armin and the others, maybe you understand where the problem is, or what is you can add to the knowledge. This is exactly like your center core. This is like your outer core in the balls you are making, and the environment is your third bottle. When you feed so much, this absorbs so much that it has to feed back out, and then what do you get? Explosion of field. It's like throwing in a stone with a rocket propulsion system, hundreds of kilometers. Because it's not what it gives here, it's how much it adds to the energy of the center, and how powerful the center become that it pushes this, overcoming the field which it fed it, and then you just dictate the distance. This is how you paralyze military forces, with a little bottle. You heard me listen to the teaching of yesterday. I gave a very clear, very, very subtle information. A little Chinese fisherman amongst the American Navy in South China Sea. The fisherman carries a little ball. The Americans never can believe such a little ball with no motor, nothing, as a drinking bottle can create such a mayhem. You need just to put a fish, which inside it carries the bottle. The power of this technology so much is for you to understand, but you have to understand how you organize it, how you dictate it. And the strangest thing is, if the man who built the system put a drop of blood of himself inside it, the fish will flow amongst the ships as he decides and looks. It's the naval ships which are paralyzed beyond it because they don't see the fish. All you see, one by one, the boat's sinking. You heard me last night. I said what I said in the teaching. Give me 10 minutes, you choose the boat. I don't even need to be in China. I can sit here from Europe and control the fish. This is what you have to do in the space. Electronic systems are too slow. If you go addition to the extension of the knowledge, you put a drop of blood, but you put with it a drop of iodine as well too. which connects to the emotion of your soul, which means you cannot do anything wrong. You shall not harm no one, but matter state finds its position. My intention is peace, the total system in the stomach of a fish. Your intention is planet Zeus. If it's good for you, you shall be there. This is what I explained. When you build your system, is your intention is to get energy that with it, you don't need to pay the bill and you have more time to serve. Your system will work in no time. But if your intention is, oh, I get the energy made, excuse my French, I screw Keshe Foundation, doesn't matter what they gave me, I'll use it myself, and I screw my nation, I don't pay any more taxes, I have more, the system will not work. And then you call me a crook, where the crookedness sits in your own soul, not understanding the work of what you're doing. These systems are getting more and more connected to your school of thoughts. You touch it, you build it. It carries your emotion, and with it, it carries the essence of your thoughts. Go back to very first teachings. You understand, maybe it comes home. As we say, it's time for the eggs to come and hatch. I told you from day one, when you make a system, pray for your system. Praying is giving, and in giving the correct thoughts, you shall receive the rest. We are coming to it very, very fast. Many of you will come and cry, my system doesn't work. Especially when you go into these bottle systems, into the GANs and the fields. You have touched it, you carried your emotion to it. Don't forget about the mother and child. It does not matter the child is, mother feels the emotion. The child is your touch, your amino acid you deposited on it. This is what you got to learn. I have brought you in a position that there is no choice but correct conduct. Because you don't get what you want unless you understand why you're wanting it and it's correct for you to have it. Look at all the structure. Look, understand the totality. Look and understand what the system gives you and why it gives you, what you were expecting of it. Do I want gold to show off I'm rich, or do I want gold to pay that my soul is at ease? If your intention to become rich, you never create gold. You can do everything. And you call me, oh, the guy is talking rubbish, is this and that. And the guy whose intention is to make gold, that with it can prove the technology is correct, delivers it. Because he knows with it, it will change a lot of things in other people to understand there is no respect for a metal or the matter. That's why we see so much success with certain individuals across the foundation work. The soul is clear, and you lot have not understood. You're too busy not paying the electricity bill and just hoping that the government will give you everything. Who's going to put the police force on the street? And who's going to keep the hospitals going when you're sick? Start, when you work with this system, start changing your ethos. The only person who can elevate your soul is you and nobody else. And in elevating your soul, you elevate your physicality. In being able to share more, to give more, that with the hope that you receive the strongest fields from those who have given, and all the weakest field has been spread on those who are weaker in intention. When I give my wish, it's the same as what I explained with the North Pole and the South Pole. The energy on the top is giver. The ones who are petty and want to take, they take from the weakest, strongest of the fields of receiving. But the man who has a full intention receives the most powerful energy and gravity. That's how the system works. That's how the sun creates its own fields. That's how you go in as a weaker and you come out as a stronger. There is no difference between the operation of the fields of the star and the soul of the man and the physicality of the manifestation of his thoughts. If you understand this, you don't need to build system. You can achieve everything which is your dream. That's the attribute of the creator. Detachment from physicality means I know I have what I want and I give as much as I have. As I know I'll receive a stronger than I give in the strongest. There is no way you can separate theology and ethos of the creation from the physics. MIT scientists, people from Cornell University, people from Yale have said, we accept Keshe technology. I can show it to you in black and white. But the problem with him is he brings theology into his work. This is you lot in these universities are nothing but materialistic scientists because you don't see the bigger picture that without it in the space, we work in the plasma, you are still stuck with the matter state. In the matter state, then you need to go to church and get rubbed with your soul because you're still stuck with it. In the plasma technology, when you understand the totality of it, you become the prophet of your own correct conduct. So we leave the scientists from Cornell and what do you call it, other universities in America who the response was, if he doesn't talk about the ethos, we accept his technology. You lot have not even understood what is on the table. You're too physical, worrying about the degrees and the Porsches and the mistresses in the back street. Shame on you. When you work in the plasma, you have to understand the ethos of the plasma. Then the plasma gives you what you want, if the intention is correct. You cannot separate. It's not anymore, I do what I do behind the locked doors. Locked doors are the open scene for the soul of the man. And when you understand this, you understand theology, which is the conduct of the soul, exists within the structure of the matter state. Without it, cannot exist. Those who want to see half of it, let them be. We call them professors at Yale University, because that's the limit of understanding. And as I said, in this technology, you take as much as you understand and no more. We don't preach, we teach. It's the student, due to his lack of understanding, who cannot see the totality. Work, set up your system very clearly. But what we've seen from our Chinese friend, understand what is the outcome. What do you want? Do you want the leakage in one side, or do you want absorption in the other side? How much do you want to give before you receive? If you set your system to be taker and taker, you find out you take nothing because it reaches balance that it has nowhere to give. So a full cup cannot take anymore.
So could we say that we're trying to evolve our confidence in our intention?
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Keshe.
Good morning.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
In Keshe Foundation, when we say good morning, it means you understood what you're talking about.
That was a compliment, actually, yes. So, well, sort of a compliment, I guess, yeah.
It is that you understood, but if you can translate the understanding into the work of life.
Well, like a cook has a recipe. In my recipe for success, I want to examine what I've created to see if how much of the recipe was the ingredient of intention by examining what I've created, if that's a fair statement.
In a way, yes, but If you want to see what you created, it depends on what you wanted out of what you created. That's the main part.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about nano-coated aluminum. Every time I see nano-coated aluminum, it's never really fully black like the.
It can't be. It cannot be.
But that's what I created, and I wanted to know if I did create it. I test it with a meter, and it, it has infinite resistance, so it's acting like the SP3 diamond structure. But I wanted to examine the process to kind of build the confidence that my intention was more of the ingredient than actually the process.
In a way, it depends what you want to do with that aluminum at the end, which counts. It's in the writing of Baha'u'llah, blessed his name, and I've said it many times. Man has a soul. So does the animal, so does the tree, even the stone has a soul. It's a field which itself has created its own fields and is aware of the fields you want to intention for. This is what a lot of us miss in the whole teaching. We become too powerful. I saw other side of the man in past week, which put me ashamed. How the greed of energy brings a man to misconduct of the conducts. We don't need to prove nothing. All we need is to show the power of our will, which is correct to deliver what we want to do, which is a peaceful action. It will come. It will come because the intention is there to come, but others are not maybe ready for it.
Well, that's why I hope to share some information. Perhaps it could help other people evolve a little bit.
With this new technology, 7 billion of us has a lot to share with each other. What we have to learn from what we understand when we get enlightened, as I said before, is to don't put it on the paper, write it with a pen of soul. Those who are at the level of you will read. This is why we changed the council to the language, not to the nation, because nations don't exist, but the languages is the line of communication and understanding of the emotion of the man. And this is what will count. You discover something and your intention is to share, write it with a pen of soul. Those who want to understand will be enlightened, and they reverse back to you what they understood, and you receive more. In the space there are no trees, and in space there are no computers. The only line of communication is through the soul of the man. We cannot put what they call cables across the universe to contact the others. And the faster the man understands this, the faster we can achieve the level of understanding of universal community.
Then why such a struggle with the physicality?
It's the choice of the man. But don't forget, man was created after physicality. It's a cycle. Conversion of energy to matter and matter back to energy. This time the energy is the soul of the man. As if you go back to part of the medical teaching, Dr. Kostova brought it out on the table clearly. When you die, your body releases equal to 18 Hiroshima bomb of energy. Where do you think that energy comes from? Gathered from the physicality to add to the soul of the man. This is what the law of us don't understand. This is what we have missed in the whole structure, and now more and more we come into liquid and field plasma. We understand more, and then it's for us to be the mediator between our soul and our physicality, which means we control our emotion to be a giver by physicality. That with the hope that we receive at our soul level what is need to be elevated with us. God is a giver because he knows when he gives, he has more to receive. Shall we call it the day? We had a long time last night. We are already in 4 hours in the of teaching. And if we can use the Paul's teaching next week. We had a very long week this week, development and technology. And it's nearly 4 hours we are online.
If I could just briefly describe the process, just so quickly.
A few minutes, yes, please.
Okay. Because in the beginning, I always, about a year ago, I was watching people were trying to create nano-coated aluminum, and there was different processes came up, and I never really saw a process that worked for me. And then I remembered when you clean silver, sterling silver, through a process where you'd put a piece of aluminum at the bottom of like a pot, and then you'd add baking soda to it, and then you could put the sterling silver in the water. The silver oxide or the tarnish would go to the aluminum foil. And so I thought about that, and I went to replicate that. So I took sheets of aluminum foil, and I put it in like a 7-quart stainless steel pot with a copper bottom, and I put in the baking soda and the silver, and I brought it to a boil and let it just simmer like a soup. And then after about 6 or 8 hours, all the aluminum sheets turned dark black. And I just wanted to know, if I'm not really a chemist, so I didn't understand if it was I created a electrolysis or I was doing something, but I found that when I tested the aluminum, the nano coat on it, it showed that the resistance was infinite. And so that was the data that I got, but I just didn't know how to explain it and to understand if there was how much of my intention was part of that recipe if it was successful.
Maybe partially, but on the other hand, you have to understand when you create these kind of conditions, you create multi-layers. Aluminium, most of the time you see grayish, not really black. It's because of its atomic structure. When it converts into plasma, it does not create a tight pack to absorb all the lights from the environment. And that's the problem with it. The structure packing is too loose in respect to the atmospheric plasmatic condition. Where with copper it becomes very tight and there's no energy, or everything goes through. With the aluminum, because of its plasmatic structure field, you don't have that. So you don't absorb all the light. It doesn't mean that you haven't created the nanomaterial or the GaNs of it. It's just a spacing which is the problem. It's not a problem, it creates a different light.
Yeah, but it's as black as the nano-coated copper.
Yes, because you have created a condition is a composite, or due to the fields you created, you have enforced external pressures internally in the layers that allow the external layers. If you shave it, you come back to gray. If you just scratch it, that you can get the top layers off, you disturb the field forces, you will get the same color as before. You have, this is how you make filtering.
Yeah, I also noticed some places look porous, but yet it was translucent, but yet the material was still there. That's what I kind of found.
Yes, this is the spacing. You have to understand positioning in the atomic structure. Thank you very much for the knowledge.
Thank you.
Our Chinese friend with this drawing you have on the screen, can you please come back, hopefully when you make your unit next week, and share knowledge with us? And Paul, we put you on an early part of next week that we can explain. We are already running into nearly 4 hours of teaching this morning.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Cash.
very much indeed. Thank you very much. And we'll
Yes,
see
I
you
appreciate
later.
it.
Thank you indeed. Thank you for sharing knowledge with us. See you next week.
Um,
Thank you, Greg. Thanks,
yeah.
Vince.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. Maybe
Thank
next
you, Ernie.
week. we can show in more detail also what Stanley wanted to bring up about the transcriptions being done on the short version of the blueprint explanation. You can find that on the Keshe Foundation YouTube site and in several, I think 7 languages now. It's 11 minutes that shows the blueprint explanation from Mr. Keshe. Okay, but we should sign off for now. You're right, it's been a long workshop here. So let me finish with the screen share. And thank you everybody for attending on the 133rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, August 18th, 2016. And lots of questions still out there. Save them for next week, and we'll continue with more answers from Mr. Keshe. Okay, I'll end the live stream for now.